what we do, who we are.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
And good morning to all you west of the East Coast, and good afternoon to everybody hanging out with me on the East Coast. What's going on? Welcome to Rambo and Frens. So I got a little thing here for you. I just was talking to IET. He's not going to be here until 1:30. So you guys are stuck with just me for a half hour. It might be a good thing. Let's give people time to roll in here, rub the sand out of their eyes and come hang out with us, as I'm trying to do myself. I got a couple things lined up that we can talk about before he shows up. Plus, it's really good practice because who knows? There might be days where I have to do this show by myself. And as we're getting off the ground with Rambo and Frens, a new platform, I hope to do just informational shows and maybe go through some threads. If you guys could tell me in the chat what it is. Oh, hi. So good. We got people showing up. Morning, mean Huki. Oki. God bless. God bless to you too. Please feel free to interact with me at this point in time until IET shows up at 1:30. So we're just not in the same time zone. Me and his assistant, who's absolutely lovely, by the way. She was amazing. Must have in some way, shape, or form crossed our communications on time. So he's going to be here. He's going to be here at 1:30. I know, what a day. Ruby Ray, I'm telling you, I am trying not to fangirl. So for anybody that's unaware, IET was here already one time, but it's a learning process. And I made the mistake of having IET, Awakened Outlaw, and Pepe Deluxe all on at the same time. All three of those guys, in my opinion, are, legends, to say the least, within this movement. They're guys that I look up to. Each one of them deserves their own show. So to have all three of them on at the same time, I think that it did an injustice to every single one of them, right? Pepe, Awakened Outlaw, and IET. So luckily, I have very good relationships with Pepe and AO. I absolutely adore both of those gentlemen. So I can probably call them and have them on anytime I wanted to, long as schedules allowed it to happen. But IET is something special. So this is a new relationship. I am absolutely stoked to be making it. And I can't wait to have this conversation today. And I hope that we build one. I'm going to let them know, just like I let everybody else know that comes on this show. Once you're part of Rambo and Frens, once you're a friend, you have an open door policy. And I hope that IET and everybody else uses that. Anytime anybody has something they would like to talk about or put out there, the door is open. I hope they just give me a call. And this goes for anybody out there in the movement. I would like to think that this platform is becoming kind of for that purpose. If anybody in the movement has something important or pertinent or even time sensitive or that would help save our country, our freedom, kids, family, the world, then you are welcome to hit me up, figure out how to contact me. It's really not that difficult between the three platforms that I am now posting on. Now posting on Truth Social. It's Rambo_Anon. I am on Telegram, which is Rambo and Frens. And I'm still the same old on Twitter, which is Brainstorm_Joe. But my name's Joe Rambo. And this is Rambo and Frens. So who didn't follow IET for years? So IET is one of the most banned as far as I understand it. But it's not even one of the most banned. He was able to build accounts up to a level that most of us could only dream about. The dude is a legend because he was able to build 300 plus accounts over and over. And there's a reason for that. It's because he's brilliant, right? So that is what it is. He will be here in about 24 minutes, give or take. We will see. He is a working doctor, so he is doing that as we speak. We just had a confusion on the time zone. So rather than just sit here and ramble the whole time, I thought we could go through a few things, right? So let's take some time. Please interact with me in the chat. Like I said, if you are over on Twitter, please know that there are 2 active platforms where this gets live streamed to, where you can interact in the chat. You can get notifications should you want to. I would be very grateful if everybody would go over and hit the thumbs up. First of all, on Rumble, hit that thumbs up on YouTube. Share the show out if you're over there on Twitter or any of those platforms. That will be the best possible way you can support this show. That being said, there are a few other ways you could support the show should you choose. So one of them is the new one that I just started doing. So I was asked in the hard comments of the show if I could put up a way that people could support when they watch the replay. And I'll just be honest, most of the views that come on this show, most of the people that watch it at their leisure. They watch it when they have the time to do so. So some of those people were asking how to support the show so that this doesn't cost money, but rather pays for itself. And so they asked to put up a Cash App. So I did. So that's what you see with the banner running across the bottom. And I'll just read it to you so you understand fully. It says, to support this show and fighting against the mainstream media and the deep state. Didn't write that, but I am on Cash App. They use the dollar symbol. Rambo and Frens on Cash App. Nothing is required to be part of this family. I love you all. I love this movement. I love this country. Now let's go save the world, right? It's kind of what I stand by. So should you choose to support this show when we're not live, that is the way to do it. No one's required, but I am absolutely super grateful if you do so. This isn't free to do. I'm certainly not doing it for a living. I work 70 hours a week, but it does cost money and it takes away from the 5 kids and the dogs in the house and whatever. That's just all here, neither here nor there, because I absolutely adore doing this. So I'm going to do it whether anybody supports or not. That's the truth. The other 2 ways that you can support not only me, but other patrons in this movement, one would be Mike Lindell, right? He jumped right on board with supporting me when I left the last platform I was with. Use promo code Brainstorm. We don't really need to get too far into Mike because I think everybody knows by now Mike supports every patriot in this movement. And for that, I'm grateful. I think that what he did with his symposiums and everything else, I think are going to culminate into something special. I think Mike had a place in this movement for a reason. FISA will bring down the house, QAG. You are absolutely right. So let me take Mike down and we'll get into something that I screwed up on yesterday. So if anybody was here yesterday, they heard me early on in the show promise that I would give away a bag of Brian Cates's coffee. And I made the mistake yesterday because it was such a great conversation with Brian Cates. If you didn't see it, I highly suggest going back and checking it out, that I forgot. And as soon as we got off, I'm like, Brian, I didn't give away your coffee. So he was like, well, whatever. It's no big deal. Brian's a great dude. But I'm going to make up for it today. So if for some reason you guys see me wrapping up the show and I forget to, yell at me in the chat, because I will be giving away a bag of Brian Cates keto for coming on yesterday. So I plan on doing that as much as I can afford to do so. I think it's a good promotion. I believe in what we're doing over here. I believe in every single person on this. I mean, without question. So it's the least I can do is give a bag away here and there. We've done 3 so far, and I will make up for forgetting yesterday. That was an accident. But it is kofefe.coffee. I will put the link that you can use to support this show in the chat. Well, with that being said, let's get into some information. That was enough of all that. How much time do we got? 20 minutes. 20 minutes until the legend himself, Dr. Craig. DrC IET, as he is now, his new handle on Twitter. If anybody's here to see him and he just showed up, he will be here at 1:30. Please hit that thumbs up over on Rumble. Please hit that thumbs up over on YouTube. And if you're over on X, just share it out. means the world to me. So here's something just funny. Are you guys aware? Let me make sure I get this right. Oh, shoot, Newt. Are you aware of who Sheila Jackson is? So Sheila Jackson is the 18th congressional district of Texas. So she's a representative of Texas. I'm not sure how many of you guys saw this, but check this out. If you want to talk about misinformation and disinformation, or possibly some level of retardation, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I get in trouble for being me. Let's listen to this real quick.
So that you have the energy of the moon at night, and sometimes you've heard the word full moon, and sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases. And that's why the question is why or how could we as humans live on the moon? Are the gases such that we could do that? The sun is a mighty powerful heat. It is almost impossible to go near the sun. The moon is more manageable, and you will see in a moment, or not a moment, you'll see in a couple of years that NASA is going back to the moon. Sometimes you need to take the opportunity just to come out and see a full moon is that complete rounded circle, which is made up mostly of gases.
The foolishness of that comment is so deep, I can only ascribe it to higher education. You have to have gone to college to say something that stupid.
What is she talking about? How is this an elected representative talking about the moon? A full moon is a full circle and it's gases. I have no idea what I just listened to there. I feel stupider for now having listened to it, but that's a thing. I have one other topic. If anybody has comments on that, please throw them in the chat. But I have one other topic, and this one could take a little bit of time leading up to the next 15 minutes till IET gets here. But this happened a few months ago, and I haven't been able to bring it up just because of the interviews and stuff that I've been doing here on the show and the, separation and new platform and everything. We've been very, very busy trying to get this up and running for everybody. But I find this very interesting that Rumble was actually the platform that blocked Brazilian users. Let me see can I make it bigger? There you go. So Rumble blocks Brazilian users. I'm going to get to why it is that I'm bringing this up here in just a minute. But Rumble blocks Brazilian users. The video platform has refused the South American country's demands to censor creators. So the video sharing service Rumble announced on Friday that it would disable access to all users in Brazil, pending its legal challenge and court order to censor certain creators in the country. Rumble CEO Chris Pavlovsky revealed the move in a post on X, formerly Twitter, noting that the court orders clashed with the company's mission to restore a free and open internet. Now, when you hear this, it comes off to me very much so like Rumble seems to be standing up for what is right. I believe that their decision, as they've presented it, is just. It's exactly what you would think they should be doing. Rumble's growing tremendously. They're becoming quite the powerhouse. YouTube, on the other hand, as far as I understand it, is kind of going backwards, at least in certain categories, whereas Rumble's taking over in those same certain categories. So for them to make a stand like this, for them to reach out and bring certain, influencers in and large names to build the platform, I'm grateful for it because they've given me a platform for freedom of speech where we can talk about these things. Every time I'm done one of these shows, I wonder if it's still going to be up on YouTube. Right? Still not even there to the point where I could be monetized. You need 1,000 followers. I think we're just over 500. That being said, I hope everybody goes over and does that because it would help tremendously. But I'm not even there yet. And I still, with every single time I post there, have to worry if I'm going to get censored. But then I realized something, right? Is Rumble not in some way, shape, or form connected with Truth Social and whatever the initials are? Aren't they all talking now about getting together? So that's when I went to some old research that I had already done. So this is something I want to present leading up to IET showing up. So this is a thread I wrote maybe, I don't know, how long has it been? February 25th. So a few months ago. And this thread was about Brazil. So in Brazil, it seems to me that they're running. Look, I'm not talking about their politics. I'm not giving my complete and full opinion or endorsement on Bolsonaro. However, I am going to draw a parallel with this thread. So for anybody that hasn't seen it, in this thread I wrote, they, Q, Bolsonaro, are running the exact same operation in Brazil as in the US. This thread will blow your mind if you haven't seen it, what's going on. So Bolsonaro has been raided. He had his very own QAnon shaman, and he is even laying low in Florida. So I'm not sure how many people saw this thread, but everything I put in here is true. And if we relate it to what we're looking at with the Rumble thing, I would say that it almost exactly parallels what I believe was white hats that took us down off of social media and censored us. So if you go back and you look at the things like 2016 potentially being protected, as it said in the drops, by the way, drop 14. I was so happy that I caught, who was it? Stormy Patriot Joe and Absolute, right? So I watched their show yesterday at some point. I was catching parts in and out. And they talked about something that I've been touching on this show for a while now. And we talked about yesterday. And that is the fact that 2016 looked like it was protected. Well, they brought up the drop 14, which I'm not going to show because of YouTube purposes. But in drop 14, it literally asked the question, what if the election was protected? It references exactly what we've been talking about on this show. So if 2016 was protected, that brings up questions in my mind. That makes me wonder. So if 2006, it doesn't make me wonder because I already have an opinion, but it fits the opinion I already have. So if 2016, they were capable of protecting the election, then why was 2020 allowed to be stolen? And not only that, but the same question me and Brian talked about yesterday. If 2016 was protected, who gave the order? That would mean that somebody in the military either made the decision themselves to go against orders or go by their own orders to ask Donald Trump to run for president and then protect the election so that he could win legally, or someone else that's outside of the scope, outside of the picture, gave the order, because the military typically does not act without civilian commander-in-chief direction, without orders. So that's kind of where I'm at with my digging right now. I'm really kind of stuck on that moment. We showed yesterday Ronald Reagan using the same campaign slogan as Donald Trump, "Make America Great Again." I think it's a super interesting point. I'm not quite fully done that dig, but let's take a look quick at what I'm talking about with this thread until IET shows up here. So here is the first video in this thread. Let's take a look at this quick.
It'll be number 2 and number 1 very shortly. It seems like that's what I'm reading. Let's see if a lot of it's fake news, so we can't go by everything. But that's what I'm hearing.
So I do this. I start videos that I've already seen, and then I see comments and I answer them. That's the beauty of having a live show. So Mean asked, "You think white hats took down the Anons who were waking up people too fast?" I think white hats took down the Anons and everyone else speaking on behalf of freedom in this country because of exactly what Donald Trump said in his announcement for inauguration pause clip that I have pinned to the top of my Twitter account. Because we will see how bad they've done so that we can do what must be done because everyone will agree with us. I believe it was to motivate. I believe it was to show their intentions. I believe we're watching a psyop. I don't know how to sugarcoat it. It's just who I am. It's what my research has led me to believe. You don't have to agree with me. I respect your opinion too. I know we can sauce all of these things from any angle, but it's where I'm at with my research. And what I'm seeing Donald Trump say, what I'm seeing in the news cycle, and what I saw in the drops all coincide. And the common pattern that I'm seeing is that, note the last 2 years, note the next 6 years, 8-year operation. I'm looking at Joe Biden and he doesn't look right. He doesn't look the same. He's the greatest red pill we have in the movement, right? So if I'm starting to see all these things and I start to realize that the Afghanistan pullout was an absolute fugazi, there's nothing real about it. You put a pickup truck underneath of those engines, it'll blow a quarter mile away. I've written threads on it. So a bunch of Afghani citizens running underneath of it, waving and smiling, laughing and giving thumbs up, hanging onto a plane and then dropping off of it as it already reached 400, 500, 600 feet in the air. I think that it's a blatantly obvious use of fifth generation warfare to grab you by the emotion. So to come full circle, do I think that the white hats took us off of the major social media platforms? I do. I think that it was done to show us how bad to show us what their intentions were, to not only show us what their intentions were, but also to maybe head fake the deep state, because that was their intention. So why would the good guys do what they wanted? So they weren't still. It comes down to Patton's Ghost Army and Trump's Ghost 46. So if we're watching a sting operation, first of all, to wake us up, there's layers to this onion, right? So it's a wake up process, right? The Great Awakening. We're all aware of that part. Red pilling. We're all out here trying to show everybody the truth. But there's, in my opinion, 1000% a sting operation going on at the same time. So if you look at it through that lens, and they continue to act like the deep state was in control, then deep state actors are going to continue to deep state, right? I mean, look at Diddy. We just had another one exposed. So there's the sting operation part. And Donald Trump told us over and over and over that they are the ones that are really under investigation. These are not real indictments. They are fake Joe Biden indictments on him. More fifth generation warfare cover. It's become so clear to me that I can't quite grasp why other people aren't seeing it. Important to note that Trump is not commander-in-chief right now. Biden is. QAG, I am not arguing one way or the other for that. I have no idea. This is the truth. I have no idea the details of how they're pulling this off. That's why I look into things like I posted earlier. When Donald Trump said, I have, what did he say? The authority is total. He talked about he has complete authority due to Article 2 of the Constitution. Look, I'm digging into all this. I respect all of the well-researched theories, devolution, the commander-in-chief one. We can talk about what's the other ones that everyone's gets all their pennies all in a bunch about, whether or not we're a corporation, right? So you have all of these pretty well-researched theories. It also seems to me that every single one of them has some holes in it. I don't know how they're doing what they're doing, but I do believe Donald Trump is confirming, along with the drops, along with the news cycle, that something's happening. So I'm not here to divide or piss anyone off or say one theory is correct and one's not. I don't honestly know. All I know is what I'm watching isn't normal. And Donald Trump seems to be the only one that keeps being proven to be right over and over. So that is why you'll see on all of my pages that I pump Donald Trump's clips. I have what I'd like to think is one of the biggest files ever on Donald Trump. I have every single possible thing he's ever said, good or bad, and I take those and I line them up with what we're seeing and what we see in the drops, because I can't prove it. I don't think anyone can. I don't mean any disrespect to the Derek Johnsons of the world or the, Patel Patriots. I respect them all. I respect their research as long as their intentions are the same as ours in, God and family and country and freedom and saving the kids, saving the world. Then you're on my team and I respect your research. I'm not going to knock you down, because what does that do for the movement? That's kind of like how I look at things. But I can tell you, Donald Trump seems to be proven right every single damn time. So that's where I focus my energy. If he's telling me something that coincides with the drops or any of those people's research, I'll point all that out, because he's, for lack of a better term, he's the boss right now, right? So he's the face of the operation. He's the spearhead. He shows you every time. He does the hand signals. Every time he sits down with a world leader, he's showing you tip of the spear. So that's where I focus my energy. So I don't know about the commander-in-chief thing. I don't know about the evolution. I don't know about whether or not we are still, I don't know if we're a corporation. I don't know any of that. And I'm not going to fight with anybody about it. I don't think I parallel that to flat earth. It's kind of like, we used to not be allowed to talk about politics and religion and abortion. And now I think that we shouldn't talk about the different theories and fight about them, flat earth and, if JFK Jr. is alive or not. Right. So it's like things have shifted if you're within this movement. And that's kind of where my head's at. But let's go ahead and listen to Trump here, and I'll read some more of the comments, because once I get talking, I can't read and talk at the same time. I'm not a magician. So let's keep going.
Federal deputy from Brazil, Eduardo Bolsonaro. Eduardo, wherever you are. He'll be number 2 and number 1 very shortly, it seems like. That's what I'm reading. Let's see if, a lot of it's fake news, so we can't go by everything. But that's what I'm hearing. Federal deputy from Brazil, Eduardo Bolsonaro.
So that was interesting only because I can't remember if that was his son or if that was him. But why the hell is Bolsonaro at CPAC? Whether it was his son or him. And I believe Bolsonaro himself was there at one point. So even if that one was his son, which I can't remember. So check this out. So if you're unaware, during their parallel insurrection, they had a parallel QAnon freaking shaman. This is already, you only have to be at number 2 of this thread and realize there's something freaking weird going on here. So Q Bolsonaro, why was he at CPAC yesterday? They had an almost exact replica of our January 6th fake insurrection for the same exact reason, with their very own QAnon shaman. The people watch their elections get stolen. I always put that extra. Well, look at that. I forgot one. But I always put that L in brackets because of Donald Trump using it so much. People asked me that today because I did it today. I add that extra L because Donald Trump did it repeatedly. It wasn't just one. It wasn't just a handful. He did it a bunch of times. And if you take that L and you go into the drops, as QAD can probably tell you, as he's in the chat, it will tell you D-class. It literally tells you that Donald Trump was pointing to a specific drop where it talked about D-class and exposing this to the world. So part 3 of this thread, Bolsonaro, listen to Bolsonaro explain a carbon copy of what has been happening here in the States. So check this out. Let me start this over here. Back this up. Here we go.
Você tira aí, tá? Eu te dei o celular? Ou tá com o Marcelo?
O pessoal ama você, 200 pessoas. 88? Isso, espero que o Brasil não entre na linha da Venezuela. Só isso. Ok. Eu, com presente, acolhi milhares de venezuelanos Chega em média hoje ainda 700 por dia lá em Pacaraima, fronteira. É triste. Teve gente que foi enganado pelo socialismo. Espero que o Brasil não mergulhe, não vá nesse mesmo caminho. E a Venezuela é o país mais rico do mundo em petróleo. Era para ser um paraíso lá. Nós somos escravos de nossas escolhas.
Now, please tell me you picked up on that. Bolsonaro just talked about a stolen election, about mass immigration, and he talked about having enough energy to save their country. How parallel does it have to get? Meanwhile, that interview that you're looking at is in an airport in Florida. So that is literally an airport in Florida. I don't know. Where's Mar-a-Lago? Seems to be a lot of coincidences going on in Florida. What the hell is Bolsonaro doing in Florida right after they had their very own same parallel stolen election, insurrection, QAnon shaman? Now he's in Florida giving interviews. Am I the only one connecting dots here? So number 4, Bolsonaro, this should blow your mind. The reason is unclear. X-37B Space Force plane that was up for 908 added together equals 17, by the way. Days surrounding our election was up for theirs. So here's
Christina Ruffini has been following this for us.
Brazil's former president, Jair Bolsonaro, has been released from a hospital in Florida.
Now, pressure is growing for the Biden administration to expel him from the U.S. after the brazen attack on Brazil's capital and on democracy by his supporters over the weekend. CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini has been following this for us very closely. She joins us now from Washington. Christina, it's good to see you. So Bolsonaro's return, will he actually return to Brazil on his own? And do we know why it is that he came to the U.S. to begin with?
It's all a little unclear. Look, I used to have a friend who was in charge of stamping passports and giving visas in Brazil. And he said, everybody in Brazil wants to come to Orlando to go to Disney World, right? So we don't think that's what Bolsonaro is doing in Orlando. He left 2 days before the inauguration of Lula da Silva, and he's been out of the country. One of the theories is so that he could have plausible deniability, because he has denied being behind this violent mob that hit the Capitol. He has denied, he said, you know, this is not him. He didn't do it. And now he's tweeted pictures of himself in a hospital saying he's being treated for an old stab wound. He's since said he's been released. But we don't know, you know, a lot of reporters have been kind of asking the State Department over and over again, what kind of visa is he on? Why is he here? How long is he going to be here? Due to privacy reasons, the State Department never comments publicly on individual cases. But they did say generally a diplomat would be here on kind of a 30-day visa. And after that, they would have to apply to DHS if they wanted to extend that longer. So after 30 days, he's going to need to come to the U.S. government and say, I would like to stay longer, or he's going to need to go somewhere else. And we're already hearing from lawmakers, members of Congress, that they don't want him here and they think the U.S. should expel him. So I would be looking, you know, towards the end of January for this to start to be an issue.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry about that. So, Bolsonaro, Brazil's stolen election was in October 2022, just before our midterms here. So the X-37B plane landed just after our midterms. It has also started a new mission, FYI, just before our primaries. We won't let them steal it again. So I quoted Trump there. But if you want to go back to my thread and take a look at the sauce on this, I did attach an article. So the X-37B landed at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on 12 November after 17 days in orbit. So for anybody that's unaware, it went up before the 2020 election. It came down just after our midterms. And what landed right in the middle of those two elections? The Brazilian election that was stolen. They had their very own J6 insurrection. They had all of those things. So I'm not muted now, right? Okay, good. I appreciate all you guys. Sorry, it's tough to do this now completely by myself without anybody helping me talk. I'm still learning, guys. Bear with me, but I think we're back up and running. So to produce and talk and think things through, get things across the way you want to all at the same time, it's a little tough. So I appreciate you guys helping me out, though. I would have kept going. So cue Bolsonaro. The Brazilian police have raided the holiday home of former President Jair Bolsonaro as part of an expanding investigation into a legal spying racket that allegedly existed during his far-right government. Does this sound familiar? They've now raided his house. I do co-hosty. That's the point. So it says you need a co-hosty, which is funny. You sound like Pepe. Yeah, I had a co-hosty. So we're doing it this way now, where I typically have guests on here. That's why it's called Rambo and Frens, because I love bringing all my friends on here. But we'll see. Maybe I'll just get better at doing it this way, so that when we don't have somebody to come on with me, or we're waiting on somebody legendary like IET to show up, maybe I can figure out how to start doing it this way. But so the police raid villa of Jair Bolsonaro's as part of a spying investigation. Does this sound familiar? This is literally what they did to Trump at Mar-a-Lago. They kicked the door in, right? Let's remember that Dan Scavino told us the day before, or just a few days before, with a door and the number 45, that they were going to do it. Hindsight's 2020, right? So number 7, Bolsonaro. What's crazy is that they're getting the same results. The making of a complete revolution. This clip was taken from a live feed of the rally going on in the streets of Brazil as I'm typing. So this was when I wrote the thread. I think more than a host, I would love to be able to get somebody to produce for me while we're doing this thing here, where we're just hanging out and talking between me and you in the chat. I would love to have somebody that was able to produce the show. That would make everything a whole lot easier to worry about all the production parts, pulling up the videos and putting things in order and making sure that I'm not muted when I'm talking, because it's hard to do 10 things at once. I think that would be the goal. Loki Wiz. But yeah, I would love to see that happen. So number 8 in Q Bolsonaro. So this is all just one big coincidence. Trump announces Bolsonaro at CPAC. Bolsonaro is legitimately hiding out in Florida. They had their own insurrection, raids, and political persecution. The X-37B plane that we think at least monitored our elections, and a freaking QAnon shaman for F's sake. That's pretty nuts, right? And I know you're going to see a flag here, which triggered a lot of people. And I'm not giving it an opinion one way or the other on what this flag means, although I do know the drops told us they were saving Israel for last and didn't talk about it for very specific reasons. So I don't necessarily think that this was not done on purpose. Interesting, right? So I know the Israel flag triggers a whole lot of people in this movement. We can add it to that list of things you probably shouldn't talk about when you're trying to save the world, or maybe it's something we should be talking about. See, that's what I'm saying. Just bringing that up is going to trigger people. But I do think that him throwing that flag out in front of him during a revolutionary event where everyone's showing up to save their country, kind of the same way that we are, I believe it was intentional. I don't know exactly the reason, but I know there's a reason. So, of course, I reference some of the things that we know in this movement that are kind of staples that really kind of wrap everything up together. And here's Christopher Miller. Or is it more likely that we are watching a parallel operation? Or is it more likely that we are watching some of the most complex military operations this country has ever conducted? We are at war globally. There will not be a global governance is what I said. So the reason I say that is, why is he in Florida? Why is he at CPAC? Why is he working so closely with Donald Trump while we're looking at an exact parallel operation going on? So it made me think of it. So let's listen to this again. I know y'all have all heard it, but it's just so important.
Off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President. And with that, the floor is yours, sir.
Boom. I mean, I don't know how much more in your face you can get. And I found this interesting as well. I tied it in. So number 10, Bolsonaro, what if China, Russia, and others are coordinating with POTUS to eliminate the New World Order? I think the parallel operation in Brazil is a blatantly obvious tell that this is a global operation. There's no way that something's happening that close. I mean, all the way down to a freaking Brazilian QAnon shaman. That is a calm all day long. We're not gonna. There's your. Let me do this quick. Let the unsealing begin. Let the D-class begin. Let the world witness the truth. We the people, justice under the law. So there's your L that Donald Trump spelled stolen incorrectly multiple times over and over. I brushed right past that for a reason. If anybody wants to know more about that drop, you can feel free to head over to my X or Telegram or True Social or many other anons within the movement's pages to find out more. Any anon that you ask questions to and doesn't answer in a kind, gentle way, in my opinion, isn't doing what we're here to do. I believe what we're here to do is to welcome more and more and to help to steal from John and Paul again, a smooth landing. So please feel free. If you ever have questions, I have people ask me all the time what NC, nothing can stop what is coming initials mean. I love that. I love that somebody's asking me that. And please ask me. That is not a dumb question. That is why we do this. Unity is the goal, right? So here's what I'm going to do now. I am going to take, first of all, I love this song. Every time I play it, it gets stuck in my head. I love supporting people in this movement. Patriot Arts Farm is one of those accounts that is super underrated. I have used his clips and his work in the posts that I've made over and over for the last 2 years. His son is I shouldn't say completely. He's at a very high level of autism, and he successfully, in my opinion, very successfully wrote, produced. He did everything that I'm struggling with here this morning, is doing a live show by myself. But he did all of this, and this is his first track. This is his first track. I'm going to use it as just a slight intermission because I fully expect Dr. IET to show up here any minute. So I'm going to use the restroom. I'm going to check my text messages. I believe this song is about 2 minutes, 3 minutes long. We're going to use it as an intermission, and then we're going to come back, hopefully, with Dr. C IET, the legend himself. So With that being said, let's take a listen, and I will be right back with you guys. Love you. Please hit that thumbs up over on Rumble. Hit that thumbs up on YouTube. If you're over on Twitter, share the show out. Please come join the other platforms. That's where it helps the show the most. But by all means, hang out wherever it's most convenient. And if you want to support Mike Lindell, promo code Rambo, kofeficoffee.com. Rambo Roast helps me the most. And for all of you guys watching on replay, the Cash App is Rambo and Frens. So thank you. You are not required. I do not expect. But if you do, I'm grateful. All right. So here we go. So this is Patriot Art Farm's son, 18-year-old son, produced and made this whole video himself. As Patriot Arts Farm himself said, he's very autistic, and we're going to use this in intermission, and I will be right back with you guys. All right. So you're welcome. You'll be humming that for the rest of the day. Every time I play that song, I hum or sing it in my head for like at least a day or two. And that's the third time now. And one time I caught myself like a week later. I woke up humming the song. So he did a great job as far as a catchy hook is concerned. I absolutely love that. So from a former hobby music producer, this is sweet. That's pretty cool. That's a really good compliment. So I just spoke to, thank goodness I gave her a compliment. I thought I was talking to IET and I was talking to his assistant and I said, she was telling me that she apologized, that she didn't think to clarify time zone differences. And I said, no worries at all. We are good. Your assistant is freaking awesome. She seems like such a great person. Well, turns out I was talking to her. So at least I gave her a really huge compliment. So that's cool. He should be here any moment though. I did talk to him. I can do some more things so we can hang out here until he shows up. I got to keep my eyes and make sure I don't miss him. But there was a few things I posted this morning. So I talked about earlier. Earlier, I talked about the Article 2 of the Constitution. There's a reason that I did that. So I posted the link on, I believe I put this one up in Telegram and on X. It's a little harder for me to write threads on Truth. I'm still getting used to it. Hopefully I get there, but here it is. So I don't know how many of you have seen this.
So it sounds like I wasn't.
But let's take a look quick while we're waiting for Dr. C to show up. So here's Donald Trump. I'm always trying to figure out the same way that your favorite researcher is, right? Devolution, continuity of government, whether or not we're I can never even say it. Corporation. Here is Donald Trump pointing everyone in the direction of Article 2 of the Constitution. So check this out, because I think that this at least plays a part, right? So check it out.
In Article 2, where I have the right to do whatever I want as president, but I don't even talk about that.
It's a thing called Article 2. Nobody ever mentions Article 2. More importantly, Article 2 allows me to do whatever I want. Article 2 would have allowed me to fire him. So it sounds like I wasn't going to fire. You know why? Because I watched Richard Nixon go around firing everybody, and that didn't work out too well. So very simply, Article 2 would allow me to do. I could have done anything I wanted. I don't even bring it up because we don't even get there. Absolutely, I have Article 2. It gives me all of these rights at a level that nobody has ever seen before. We don't even talk about Article 2. So they rule no collusion, no obstruction. In Article 2, where I have the right to do whatever.
So that's interesting, right? I saw you in the chat, Patrick of Kekistan. So I put the QR code back up there. I didn't really like the look of it. I don't like to seem like I'm asking people for money. I only did the Cash App thing because people asked me to. Because so many people watching the replay.
As president,
hey, Trump, shush.
I don't even talk.
I'm talking. So I left the banner across the bottom where it says it's Rambo and Frens, just like the show is. So if you go on Cash App and you look up Rambo and Frens, I guess I'll leave the Cash App, whatever that is, QR code up there for everybody. It just feels weird. I'm trying to do the right thing. I hope that makes sense to everybody. We talked about this the other day with everybody. It's an odd thing because I in no way, I go to work, like I said, 70 hours a week, family and dogs and sports and all that stuff. That's all normal. We all do that, right? So I'm not trying to profit off of the movement, but however, I think it's legit to try to pay for it, right? Like to pay for itself. So that's why it's all up there. As you can see, I get uncomfortable doing that. Anyway, so there's Donald Trump talking about the Article 2 many, many times. It's a good compilation. So this is the other one that I find that goes kind of like cookies and milk with that video. I don't know if anybody's seen this. So full disclosure, he's directly in this moment referencing COVID-19. However, Donald Trump referenced COVID-19 as a jumping off point to talk about many other things. Let me say this. Many times he used COVID-19 to expose the level of authority he had when it came to national security. So COVID-19, if you listen to Donald Trump, was an attack on this country. He blamed China, right? Sometimes I miss the way he says China. So Donald Trump looked at COVID-19 as a biological weapons attack on our country, therefore affecting national security. So if he looks at it that way, well, what else would affect national security? Foreign interference in our elections would certainly be one, right? Infiltration within our government, all three-letter agencies, etc., would also coincide. So that's why when I pull this, I like to give full disclosure that when he's being asked, it's about COVID, but there are many things that affect national security that parallel, and I believe that this was messaging, my opinion. So let's take a listen.
He's the president of the United States. The authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Total. The authority is total.
It's total. It's total. And the governors know that. So if the governors know that. Now you have a couple of bands of excuse me. You have a couple.
Could you rescind that order?
You have a couple of bands of Democrat governors, but they will agree to it. They will agree to it. But the authority of the president of the United States having to do with the subject we're talking about is total.
You said when someone is president of the United States, their authority is total. That is not true. Who
Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to write up papers on this. It's not going to be necessary because the governors need us one way or the other, because ultimately it comes with the federal government. That being said, we're getting along very well with the governors, and I feel very certain that there won't be a problem. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Has any governor agreed that you have the authority to decide when their state
I haven't
comes
asked
back up?
anybody. Because I don't, you know why? Because I don't have to. Go ahead, please.
But who told you the president has the total authority?
Enough.
I haven't asked anybody. You know why? Because I don't have to. Donald Trump is a savage. Whew. All right, let me take this off of here. I'm gonna go through the chat a little bit because I am fully expecting him to show up here any minute, and I hope so because I'm running out of stuff. Unless you guys have stuff in the chat that you want me to pull up, anything that you might remember that Donald Trump has said. I'm pretty quick on the draw. I'd be happy to try to pull up whatever it is you might want to remember that Donald Trump said. I'm pretty good at that. But I fully expect DrC IET to show up here any moment as I'm still talking to his assistant. He's a doctor. Does anybody else feel like they're sitting in the waiting room right now? And like your appointment was 30 minutes ago and you gotta wait. Do everything right for one person, piss you off. Someone else. All right, bear with me. We'll find something else to talk about here. I'm going on the fly as we speak. Oh, here we go. That was easy. How about this yesterday morning, right? So Enoch, who I absolutely love, somebody in the comments said, oh yeah, he's a real genius. I happen to have been lucky enough to have met Enoch a few times now. I run in the same circles. He's been on the show. I look up to the way that he does his camping outage, whatever. He's brilliant. His camping trips and everything he does, the way that his mind works, he is absolutely a brilliant dude. So I wonder if I can blow this up for you guys. This is more than a coincidence. I'm going to make this the biggest. So you're going to really have to squint at this one. But he says, do you believe in coincidence? This is dropped 39/21 on 4/9 of 2020. So that's yesterday on a 4-year delta. it says FISA indictments equal start. And what was trending on Twitter? But hashtag FISA. Every single one of these green lines show that every single one of these posts hit the exact 4-year delta of this Q drop. Every single one of these orange lines point to every one of these posts that show hashtag FISA. Every single one of these people you will recognize: Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Jim Jordan, Dan Bishop. I mean, it just runs through. Chip Roy, Corey Mills. The list is absurd. This is a level, this is an in-your-face Q-proof. This is a comm among major comms. How does exactly a 4-year delta turn into a trending hashtag exactly 4 years later? Yeah, wow is right. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. First of all, Enoch's brilliant. He's the one that saw, he was the first one that I saw that saw when Donald Trump posted his mugshot. The first letter of all 3 lines said end. There won't be number 5, if I remember correctly. Enoch is brilliant the way his brain works. And he picked up on this, as many did yesterday. It started making the rounds. Everybody picked up on it because FISA started trending. But a literal exact delta, and then, oh man, I'm gonna get kicked off of YouTube. I forgot all about them. Am I still up? Yeah, we're still up. So there's a delta today. I wonder if I can pull it up. I wonder if I can pull it up without getting kicked off. Hold on, bear with me. Boom, popcorn ready. All right. So let's see. Give me a second. I'll see if I can pull it up. I'm gonna get myself in trouble, but whatever. I'll do it for you guys. All right. QWAG.news. Everybody's favorite aggregator site. So let's take a look.
Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus.
Get rid of this.
To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing that may lead to data loss and identity theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately. Important security message. Your computer has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus. To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please
What the hell was that? Can you guys hear me? I just got completely raided by the feds. And now I'm on. Can I get a 5x5 in the chat if you can hear me? That was a nightmare. That's what I get for going to QAG live on the show. Okay, good. Hi, believer. Thank you guys all for bearing with me. And while that was happening, DrC IET, inevitable ET. Thank goodness. I'm glad you guys are all still here. Give me a second. I'm going to try to pull everything back up. So let's find out. Are you here, Doctor?
Yeah, I'm here.
What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not a lot.
Bro, do you have any idea what just happened to me?
What? No, what?
Oh my gosh. So I filled in an hour hanging out with everybody. That was fun. And then I tried to go to QAG on my computer and I must have clicked on something that was wrong. Either that or the feds got a hold of me. And everything started, don't shut down your computer. Buzzers started going off. It got all crazy.
Yeah, I heard that. It was weird.
Yeah, I had to shut everything down and
maybe
whatever.
QAG's messing with everybody.
He's in the chat, so should we blame him?
I don't know. Like, when people go onto his site and do a search, he probably could code it to where it starts doing stuff like that. Like false alarms, just freaking everybody out.
All right, funny. I blame QAG.
Yeah, it's his fault. Just kidding. It's not. If you're listening.
Kidding. We are just kidding. No, he's a really good friend. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, bro, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're finally here. I'm sorry that we did the time thing, but I'm good as long as you're good. I'm cool. I'm grateful.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna bounce. I'm on the road, kind of traveling in between things, so I kind of schedule my free time and my things like this during this type of stuff. So you'll have to give me a second to get things situated, and then I'll come back and we can talk more. So I don't know, maybe use the free stuff, the space where I'm not there to formulate whatever it is you want to talk about or ask different questions or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you need some more time, go ahead and take it. We're good.
Well, no, we're good right now. So I'm good for the next 15 or so minutes. And then I'll have to hop off for a quick little bit and then I'll be back.
Okay. Awesome. Well, let's do it this way. Let's do it the opposite of the last time that we did this. So I would rather you give your presentation, if for lack of a better term, on what it is that you do. I want to hear all about that first, and then if we have some time, I'd love to ask you some questions. Do you want to do it that way?
Oh, sure. I mean, however it is you would like. So essentially, let's just start maybe with what happened to me. And so I've always been really healthy. I even competed in CrossFit, did that for 10 years. And so I was, physically good shape. I felt like everything was good. I didn't really have any aches and pains. I had a herniated disc, 2 of them actually, that I actually healed while I was doing CrossFit. So it's not like the CrossFit created that injury for me, if that makes sense. But I've always had a little bit of digestive issues, but not terrible. And around March of 2021, I started having really bad digestive issues. Like one day I woke up and I just started throwing up everywhere and I was throwing up blood and I couldn't eat anything without having massive pain, stomach pain, cramping. It was like bloody diarrhea 6-7 times a day. I lost 30 pounds over the course of 6 weeks. And, I thought maybe I just had a nasty infection, some sort of GI infection or something. But I went and got tested and all kinds of stool samples and things that they would do to try to verify what's wrong. And, they couldn't determine anything. But I had a very real problem. And so, kind of bouncing around from doc to doc, trying to get it figured out. Nobody seemed to have an idea. Well, around the same time, I also started kind of getting a little bit of vertigo, and it would only happen upon sitting up. So If I was laying down and I sat up really quick, then the world would kind of spin for a split second and then it would be okay. But all of these things, instead of getting better like you would normally think they would over, maybe you just had a little issue, they were getting progressively worse, and they were getting worse quick. So obviously quite concerning for me, but that vertigo, turned into all of a sudden I couldn't see anything right in front of my face with any clarity. So it was all blurry. I started seeing double vision, started having weird sparkles in my vision. I didn't have any headaches. I didn't have any other real pain associated with my neck, but I didn't have any good balance. I was obviously weak because I wasn't eating, and all of this other digestive dysfunction was still happening. And so no real changes there, but it got to the point where I was focused on how was I going to make it in the next couple of minutes to the next hour. And I wasn't really focused on, the next day or even a month from now. And that went on for some time. And again, going from doctor to doctor, trying to get it all figured out. Nobody really had any ideas, but I knew that when I went to a chiropractor to have my neck adjusted, they could get the vertigo to stop. So the vertigo was getting worse, and I couldn't even drive. I don't know if you've ever even had vertigo before, but it's like the world is spinning. You're completely incapacitated. And if you're behind the wheel when this starts happening, your body will, I don't know how to describe it. You cannot drive with vertigo. It is impossible. So I was driving one time, I had to stop, pull over, and just, put my foot on the brakes to hope that I didn't run into anybody or crash. I was having vertigo so bad I had to call my wife to come pick me up, and she would drive me to the local chiropractor in town that I was seeing. And this time he wasn't there. He is a guy that's been doing this for 40 or something years or so, and he had not taken a single day off in 30 years, but apparently his friend was dying of cancer and he was going to go spend the last week with him. So he was not there that day, and I needed somebody else. So I just looked up another chiropractor locally and went to their office, and she was a new chiropractor. So she was working for an older chiropractor, but it's like a new graduate, and she was willing to treat me. And I just was like, okay, well, I'm going to tell her exactly what I want her to do, and let's see if she can just do it. As far as a chiropractor is concerned, her ability to adjust, she was doing great. So I kind of switched, going from the guy that I was going to her. And, we were making some progress where I would get some relief, but then like within an hour, it's right back. And so a little bit of frustration there. The last time I saw her, she adjusted me. It went the same as it always did. I didn't really have any issues, except that within 30 seconds after doing that, I had a seizure right on the table. And she didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what was going on. But we both kind of freaked out. And so she was like, well, maybe we should order you an MRI and see if there's, maybe a tumor going on, something in the central nervous system. I'm like, listen here, if I have a tumor, like a brain tumor, like that's just got to be it, right? I'll do the standard fenbendazole biz, but I'm not going to have surgery. I'm not doing chemotherapy. So, whatever. We just got to keep doing what we're doing. And then she said, well, I have a guy, he's a friend that I went to school with, he as well just graduated, and he's got a very unique form of upper cervical that he does, that he's had some success with. Maybe you'd be interested in talking with him. At this time, I'm already a 10-year chiropractor. So I've been doing this for a while, and I ran a 5-star business. I hardly imagined what some upper cervical new graduate who only adjusts 2 bones could do that would be better than anything that I could do. So I kind of scoffed at it. But at the end of the day, I was at the end of the road. I didn't really have a whole lot of other options. So I talked with him over the phone for like 2.5 hours. I mean, I grilled this guy, and every question and discrepancy that I could try to come up with to challenge him on what he was going to do or his thought processes, I mean, he readily answered, and I was, impressed with the answers enough to say, oh, well, let's just give this a try. And so I went to his office, but I had to be driven there because, again, I can't drive, and he's 2.5 hours away. So, okay, we're going to go check it out. And after he does his tests, the analysis, that's what's special about what I do. It's that we have the right information based upon the analysis of what's going on. And he was able to adjust me afterwards. It doesn't really feel like anything is being done. I kind of had the immediate reaction of this guy just put his hand on my neck, and then the neck piece, the head piece drops, made a sound. The table made that I didn't make, and I kind of thought he didn't do anything. But then immediately, within about 5 seconds, I had cold water. It felt like cold water, at least, traveling up my entire spine from my sacrum all the way into my forehead, going everywhere. And when I got stable, I sat up, and then when I sat up, I didn't have vertigo. Thought that was interesting, but I was a little woozy, so I was like, okay, hold on. And then I stood up afterwards, and I could walk a straight line. I didn't even mention that earlier, but like I had no balance. I could not walk a straight line staring at it. I would have failed a sobriety test if anybody, were to ask me to perform one. And so I was all of a sudden, I felt like my feet were grounded, and like I could, walk without having this loss of balance. And he went to go check me, and when he's doing the check, there's a certain way that you have to do it, that you have to bend the knees, you have to look at the ankles and put them into a certain position. And anybody that has a little bit of low back tightness or back pain or back injury, they're going to feel that in their back. I had felt a little bit of that because I had 2 herniated discs, but they had been asymptomatic for like 5 years. So it was a little tight, but it wasn't a problem. But I noticed right away that I didn't feel any of that anymore. It was just gone. It's like, oh, that's a nice little side benefit. And pretty much from there, like 90% of what I was dealing with immediately was removed. And nobody had ever come anything close to that before. And so he's just like, hey, we're going to have a healing process now. And he was describing the retracing and all that. And, I kind of was maybe didn't believe as much at first, but was willing to go along with it because of how great I felt and how much change had just happened in just a short amount of time. Well, over the course of from then until now, I'm a completely different person. I went from virtually almost dying, in my opinion, to I've never been better in my entire life. I mean, every single thing that I had a problem with, I no longer have a problem with. And it has been just the most miraculous change for me. So as soon as he got that done, I was like, man, whatever you just did, you got to teach me. And so he did. He ended up teaching me how to do all of this. The Dr. Guillermo Vasquez. He's out of Dallas, Texas. But he taught me how to do it. And then once I became certified in it all, then I started doing it in my own practice. And I've been doing it since May 2022. So it is just the most incredible thing. We've had people with cerebral palsy come in, and they no longer have cerebral palsy. We have people that have come in with Chiari malformation. This is a very debilitating disease, and there is no cure, and except for this though. So these people resolve. People with autonomic dysfunction. Really, what it does is essentially allows the body to be reset. The central nervous system becomes reset and unimpeded. So we can get into the nitty-gritty of that here in a second, but I'm about to arrive at my location. I just wanted to at least tell my experience with it and like why I even got into all of this. But
absolutely. So what I'm going to do then is, while you do that, I'm going to collect up some questions from the chat. I think that was a really good intro. I know I already have a few. If you want to go do your thing, and we'll line up some questions for you. I'd love to pick your brain when you get back.
Yeah, we will. I'll be back shortly.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. Later.
All right, bye. How cool is this? Do you guys realize the level of intelligence and research and free thinking? Talk about a completely free mindset. This dude didn't collect this level of following over and over and over without being completely brilliant. So I'm excited. Any type of questions you guys have in the chat. I think the first one I want to ask him, just to let you guys know where my brain's at. Obviously, I have some personal things that I'd want to ask about, as I'm 42 years old at this point. But I want to ask him, like, does that not feel like a God moment when you enter a career path that ends up being something that, how did he choose that career path when it was the same thing that was going to, in his opinion, as he just said, save his life? That part blows my mind. I want to ask him if he realized he was getting into that career path prior or knowingly that he had issues that he needed to deal with. I think that's kind of an interesting data point. I can't wait to ask him about his personal experience throughout this movement and how it was that he built such amazing platforms. I can't wait for that part. If you guys have anything that you want to ask him, please, by all means, put it in the chat right now. I realize that today's show is a little bit of a hodgepodge, but when we were dealing with a legend to the level of IET, as I look at him, I don't really care if people tell me I'm fangirling. The dude's a legend. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to have this conversation. So, what about anxiety? Tipsy, I will be happy to ask him about anxiety. I have an issue just recently where I was at work and we were in tight quarters, me and 4 other guys, and I work in a very dusty atmosphere. So we burn trash and make electricity. A lot of people don't like what that does to the atmosphere. I promise you that we take every precaution to make sure that any exhaust that goes out into the atmosphere is very well cleaned. We have very high regulations. However, it is a dirty, dusty, dangerous atmosphere to work in. And while we were working on a pump, it was a dusty atmosphere and I did not have my respirator on and it made me sneeze. And like I said, I was in close quarters. So I turned away hard in a funky position and I sneezed. Well, for the last 3 weeks, I feel like I broke a rib. I'm not even kidding. Like, I feel like I broke a damn rib. I don't know if Dr. IT will be able to give me any type of guess on why the hell that's happening. But it's like every time I sneeze now, I feel like I'm blowing my kidneys out of my side. So I can't wait to ask him about that just on a personal level. What do we got here? So Adrian says, I was diagnosed with cervical dystonia. I hope I said that right, in 2006. And I've been fighting with my body ever since. Would love to know if this would be something that could be helped with this technique. Absolutely. So I've watched Dr. Craig's video, which is, it's not a public video. It's something that he, I believe, if I'm quoting this right, it's something that he shows to his patients to further explain his healing process. And it was mind-blowing, right? So it's above my pay grade, to be honest. So how can you get this? Azure Lane, I would like to believe that we're going to talk a little bit more about how, I know tons of people, QAG, I wonder if he's still here. Maybe he ran off after he sabotaged the show. But I know a ton of people that have traveled long distances to go see Dr. Craig. So how can we get this? I know that he travels and he meets people in certain areas. Pepe Deluxe has a facility that they've been using so that people can meet Dr. IET. So I know that is a possibility. We'll have to ask him about all that. I should start taking notes. How can we take advantage? How can we meet up? I know we want to hear more about what it is he's talking about. I would like to look at this, to be honest with you. This might even offend him, and I hope it doesn't. But this, in my opinion, is a much more intellectual, a much more realistic, a much more feasible way of dealing with some of the issues that we all have as we get older than like grabbing onto, I'm going to piss people off, grabbing onto the hopium that is medbed per se, right? So we actually have a Tesla medbed facility right here in Pennsylvania that is kind of right up the street. When I saw that, I was like, what the hell? Medbed facility in Pennsylvania? There's no way I'm not going there. And I looked it up and I found out that they're doing the same thing that some of these other people are doing. And it is literally a bunch of beds with magnets under them, and it does nothing for people. I was really frustrated when I looked into it because I was like, damn, was I wrong the whole time? Nope. Turns out I was right. Joe, I did that a few weeks ago, twisted the wrong way while sitting down and bruised a rib. Was freaky. Took a couple weeks to heal. I know, but here's the problem. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. Oisine 58. Every time I sneeze, I feel like I re-injure it, and I do that a lot at work. I'm supposed to wear a respirator for 12 hours a night. I don't know if I can do that. So, yeah, I'm going to ask him about that one. But yeah, I've broken ribs before because I wrestled and played sports. So it's what it feels like. It's definitely feels like a broken rib. But how old do you have to be to sneeze and break a rib? That's embarrassing. I can't believe I even told you guys. Oh, I saw that you said you want that song for a workout. Clip it right out of the show and use it. I know you can find it on Patriot Arts Farm's page. So it's a good place to check it out. How about questions? Does anybody else have questions? There's 207 of you over on Rumble. If you could hit that thumbs up while we're waiting for Dr. IET to show back up. Oh, I see one thumbs down. I must have upset everybody with. Look, doing a live show. I know many people like Alpha. I did a show with Alpha where we recorded it, and the show came out amazing. But just as a personal preference, his show came out great, and it got tons of views, and the message was clear, and it was presented the right way. It was beautiful. But I kind of find something, to me, it's more attractive to be able to interact and have live people hanging out and talk to you guys in the chat. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Clay Clark wants to come on. I'm probably going to record that, right? So Clay does 30-minute. I've had him before. Clay's great, right? He's a good dude in the movement to have. It's a cool thing to be able to play on your show. He brings tons and tons of patriots together, whether you agree with everything he does or you don't. I believe that we're all stronger together, and Clay's a big part of bringing everybody together. So I'll probably record that, but that's just because of time restraints, and he's a very busy man, and it'll be really, crisp and produced, and we'll play it on the show. It's just not my style. I'd rather hang out and talk to everybody and hang out in the chat and have real live laughs. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. You guys are part of this show at this point. So if you think that I'm incorrect and I should be recording these things so we don't go through these struggles, I understand I'm going to get a thumbs down once in a while when things don't go right, but that's the nature of hanging out live. So I don't know. Oh, from Belgium. That is damn cool. Hi from Belgium. Yeshua bless. Thanks for everything. I absolutely appreciate you being here. I mean, how cool is that? All right, good. Somebody agrees. Love the lives. Well, I think so too. For me, those are the shows that I was attracted to when I was watching stuff because I felt like I could be a part of. And so that was the type of show I wanted to put out there. This has been an experience for me just as much as it's been for you guys. So what are we at? An hour and a half, and we've had a few technical issues. We've had Dr. IET that came a little later than we anticipated, and we're probably still going to have a whole nother hour, if not an hour and a half with him. It's not easy to just fill time. I think that we're doing a pretty darn good job here filling it. So we got good. We got one, no problem. Well, we could start something new. I'd be afraid to. You know what I can tell you guys? Coming up next week on Monday, JF and Honest Smart Paul are going to be coming on again. So that one will be good to go. Those guys have become regulars on this show. Absolutely a blast to hang out with. So they're going to come on, and we're going to do something fun on Monday. And Thursday, I am going to have, if anybody was watching the Apocalypse episode that we did, the hangout session on Monday, I showed Mustang Medic. So Mustang Medic is going to come hang out with me on Thursday. So on Thursday, Mustang Medic. And I have ideas for Friday. I will be doing a show Friday. I have to ask a few people if Sarge or Feisty Cat happen to be watching. Just expect a phone call, because that's who I'm thinking about calling. I absolutely love doing a show with those guys. And tomorrow is Sean and On. Sean and On is I've done one show with him before, and I think I went on his show one night, like all night long. Sometimes he streams, and the dude's absolutely awesome, and he's got a background similar to mine. So tomorrow, when Sean comes on, I fully expect to get into it with him a little bit about addiction and alcoholism. So the dude has a brilliant mindset. He's a very good speaker. He has his own show. He has a bunch of great partners that he works with, and we have been trying to link up for months and months and months now, ever since I was on his show. So I fully anticipate tomorrow to be a little bit more produced, a little bit more start to finish. Again, I apologize that today's not that way, but Dr. Craig's one of those guys that when you get the opportunity, you got to jump on it. So I'm grateful, and I hope you guys are too, that we get to hang out with him for any period of time. He is a doctor, like I said, and he is taking time out of the middle of his day. So I was on the phone with his assistant. Joe asked Dr. C about treating idiopathic intracranial hypertension, please. Okay, I'm going to try to repeat that. Maybe I'll just show it, because that's above. Lacey Cat used to be a Patriot soap boxer. Yes, she's awesome. Yeah, and if you're unaware, I'm good friends with Feisty and SSG. I always bring them on together. They're like partners to me. So that's always a good show. But yes, God's heart, we will absolutely hear just momentarily when Dr. Craig gets back. I will ask that question. Yeah, I'll just leave it up. That way I don't forget. Yeah, so anybody else have any questions? How about this? Throughout the movement, Dr. Craig, IET. Yes, for Blake, I have covered Joe M's videos. Joe M is a legend. Joe M, I wonder what I can talk about and what I can't. So I've gotten involved with a lot of back channel communication, right? That's nothing that's probably a surprise to anyone. I think some people try to use that against people, which is funny. Everybody talks in DMs and text messages. When you become friends, that's what happens. So through this process and fighting and posting and building an account, I've made a lot of friends. That's why it's called Rambo and Frens, right? Some of my favorites, Awakened Outlaw, it's like my go-to, right? Love that dude. Feisty Cat and SSG, absolutely love them. JF Non, Smart Paul, Beer at the Parade, right? We can just run through the list of amazing people, even the Yale and Vigilant and Russ, right? So all these amazing people. I get to hang out sometimes on really cool Zoom calls on Friday nights and back channel stuff. I've gotten blessed enough to be involved in conversations that are a lot like the one I hope to have with IET at the end of this interview, where we get to, hear some of the stuff that went on, between the guys that were the tip of the spear as far as this movement and anons were concerned. So when it comes to Joe M., I have heard legendary stories. I've seen all of the legendary videos, and that is what they are, is legendary. So I'll say this. Joe M. made a promise when he made a promise that if Donald Trump didn't go back into office, I hope that I'm paraphrasing this correctly, that he would give it up for good. And I believe that that's why you haven't seen Joe M. in the form that Joe M. was. But I do know that Joe M. is on Twitter. But I can't tell you who. That's all I'm gonna say. It's not my place. It's not my place, but he sees you guys. That's all I'm gonna say. I've played his videos many times. I've tried to tribute him. I even commented and tried to get him to come on the show. Right? Of course I would. The dude is a legend, and I hope that someday that God puts it into his heart to show himself as Joe M. again. But he didn't go anywhere. He didn't go anywhere. He just doesn't call himself Joe M. So I'm just going to say it that way. All right, that's enough of that. I probably already said too much. I'm going to get myself in trouble. The other really big show that we're working on coming up is another one that I can't. See, sometimes you got to understand in this movement, sometimes it's dangerous to tell people who you are. So I was never an anon per se to where I kept my identity anonymous. I have always, once I decided to enter the movement, I did it with my face, right? So the Joe Rambo thing, the Rambo thing's a nickname, but I've never hidden who I am, especially when I had to ask the movement for help when it came to my son. So I was completely forthright, put my mom's name and her last name out there. So I'm pretty sure you guys can guess what my real last name is if you really wanted to know. I didn't hide it. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people live in different countries. Some people live under different governments. Some people have different financial situations. They work for certain companies where their freedom of speech is not nearly as free or able to be as fearless as I am when I talk, or some of us are. And the drops really did kind of preach anons. The idea was to be anonymous in the beginning. So I completely respect, look up to, and understand when people do it that way. And we're having someone like that on here shortly or in talks because it's going to be a large group. But it's going to be a large group, but it's one of those deals where I believe it's 8-Track, who is one of the co-founders of Covfefe.coffee. It's going to be beer at the parade. It's going to be JF Non Smart Paul, myself, and Burn Notice. So no one, that's one of those shows that's going to happen. And then sometime in the future, everyone's going to realize how legendary it was. That's all I'm going to say. But good back. I hope you weren't sitting there long. I was ranting.
No, dude, I just got in like, I don't know, 10 seconds ago.
My man. All right, good. I'm glad I saw you right away.
Yeah, you're good, dude. You are good. All right, so I see the little question on the bottom, but where do we begin? What do you want to know?
Well, I only left this one up because I didn't think I'd be able to repeat those words.
Yeah.
Do you? So you gave a pretty good idea about how you came to the conclusion that this process would help you, but I don't know if maybe I didn't understand completely. But is there a way to describe what exactly the process is a little bit more deeply?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right, so the upper cervical spine, C1 and C2. They are so named because they are the top 1 and 2 vertebra in the cervical spine, which is the neck. So they're right underneath the skull. Their anatomy is very different. Together, they act like a functional unit that allows you to turn your head. The majority of the rotation of your head comes from C1, right on top of C2, freely rotating around it. Some special anatomy there. And there is a space where the brainstem sits that is right in the middle. It's part of the vertebral column, so the brainstem is contained within the anatomy of C1 and C2, right? It's traveling through these bones. And when C1 and C2 become misaligned, they can encroach upon that space. Now, the brainstem stops at C2 and the spinal cord starts. And so really you're just talking about the differentiation of anatomy. But within the brainstem is not only every single nerve in the entire body before it enters into the skull where the brain is, but it's also the home for all of your cranial nerves. And you have 12, one on each side, so there's 12 pairs. And they control all of the vital functions, right? Like vision, balance, and smell, taste, and all of the organ function and digestion and heart and lungs and all that. It's all right there. And the reason it's right there is because should there ever be an injury to the spinal cord, you would not want to lose function to the things below, including the access to the vital functions. So all of the really, really, really important stuff is up high, and it's located inside the brainstem. Part of the brainstem sits within the space of C1 and C2. You follow so far?
So far, I'm trying.
All right. So nerves are how you operate the body, right? It's how you are sending information. You want to know what's going on? That information travels from a nerve somewhere in the body up the spine into the noggin, and then the brain says thanks, and it sends a signal back down the same nerve. It's like, think of them like telephone wires, right? Like they're just carrying information. That information could also be to do something, right? To control it or function or even heal it or send an immune response to that area. Whatever needs to happen, your brain has to be the one to tell it, and it's going to happen on a nerve, right? So all of these nerves, they have to travel somewhere, and they all go into the spine, and they travel up the spinal cord, and then they get into the skull by traveling through C1 and C2. So it's every single nerve in the body. I mean, that's the control and the function and the operation of everything. That's the health of everything through this space. And then on top of that, you have the nerves that control all the really vital things, like how fast your heart rate is, or whether or not you can digest food, or go to the bathroom, or use your liver or kidneys or any of the organs, right? Also through that space is your hormonal control. So your pituitary has to receive information from the body about what are the hormones, in the blood. How much do we have? Do we need more? Do we need less? And so as it's getting this signal, it's releasing more or less of its own hormones. We call them neuroendocrine hormones, but they stimulate or inhibit all of the other organs and whether or not they make their own hormones, right? So like everybody knows of the sex hormones made by your sex organs. You have testosterone and estrogen, right? They don't just do that all on their own. Somebody has to say, hey, I need you to make a little more, or I need to make a little bit less, or keep making the same amount. And so this information is relayed back and forth through this space. And so all of your hormone function is necessary to travel through this open space. And then lastly, cerebral spinal fluid. Okay, so everybody's heard of the blood-brain barrier. You have one of these because you don't want any infection or any toxin or poison that may have incidentally entered into your bloodstream to get anywhere near your central nervous system. Like this thing is so important. It's the motherboard. If the motherboard fails, everything fails. So they're going to protect it by even preventing blood from having access to the central nervous system. Everything has to pass through this barrier called your blood-brain barrier, and it is your meninges. It's a 3-layer barrier that within it is a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid, and in the cerebrospinal fluid is going to act like the circulatory system of the central nervous system. All right, that's how you transport all the nutrients and all the constituents that belong and operate and function the central nervous system. So like neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, your thought processes, movement, memory, emotions, all of this is traveling through as neurotransmitters. And then of course you have special immune cells in here that operate a very independent and specialized immune system that's inside the central nervous system. And we have a waste system. Like there's got to be a filter to remove all the crap back out. So like just like your blood is and the lymphatic system is for the rest of the body, you have all that located within cerebral spinal fluid, right? And cerebral spinal fluid is in a conduit right there as it enters into the skull. So there's like a point of maximum relatability. There's maximum overlap. Like if you're talking about an area of the body that's related to function or otherwise to something else, they're all related to the fact that they have to go through this space. So you see what I'm saying? Like everything has that in common. You get a head trauma, you get a neck trauma that's big enough, you know, the neck anatomy, the vertebra anatomy up there, it's actually designed to not fall out of alignment. You know, there's very special anatomy that supports one another and prevents that kind of thing. But you can still have a great enough force. You know, for a lot of people, it happens at birth or when they're a young child because they just fell. But they become misaligned up there. And now those joints, instead of holding that space open with integrity, they don't have that joint integrity, or the misalignment is great enough that it's actually compressing on that space, right? So you're now compressing cerebral spinal fluid on that side. You're compressing any of the nerves that are coming in from any part of the body, and then potentially compressing on the cranial nerves. So hormone function, brain function, thought processes, emotions, and some part of the anatomy of the body is affected. And that will continue on. And if you have another trauma, you know, you can create another layer of this. And so some people have, you know, multiple layers. You can kind of liken this scenario to putting a tourniquet on your arm. Okay, let's pretend it's on your forearm. And you have some sort of injury to your hand. And the tourniquet is preventing blood flow from going to the hand. So what difference does it make should you have any surgery or treatment or therapy or drug or nutrient or, you know, specialized equipment, whatever, that you would do for your hand in order to get it to heal until you take the tourniquet off? And it doesn't really matter because the nutrients of the body are traveling within the blood, and your ability to run and heal and regenerate.
Uh-oh. You still there? IET, you hit a dark spot there.
Is
There you
designed for you to do to yourself, and it's written on your. Are we back?
Yes, you're back.
So your body is designed to heal itself, right? It's written on your DNA. Like something like 95% of your genetics is designed for you to either adapt or regenerate from whatever it is you experience in your environment, so that you stay alive, right? And if you're unable to do this because of a mechanical block that's preventing the communication with the central nervous system, brain doesn't even know there's a problem, or it can't send an adequate response back, you know, if I get bad information in, then of course I'm not going to have an adequate response if it can even make one pass through. So you end up seeing dysfunction according to whatever nerve is compressed and the tissues that nerve goes to. So dysfunction over time plus wear and tear equals disease, and people can manifest in so many different ways, you know, depending on what's compressed in their anatomy and the order and their ergonomics. It all goes back to up here first. And just by reestablishing the upper cervical joint integrity, you are no longer blocking any of that. And if it's unblocked and it's decompressed, then cerebral spinal fluid flow returns, nerves open up and restore function to tissues that are now able to heal and regenerate. and then the healing process begins. And so this is essentially it, right? The system of analysis is what sets us apart from any other upper cervical chiropractor, because while they may be on the right area, they are all basing their diagnosis of misalignment off of an image. And a misalignment is a movement disorder, and an image is a still image. So you can simply not logically 100% conclude a proper diagnosis, a precise diagnosis of misalignment on an image. We have a recently discovered test that uses movement and stress of the upper cervical spine that allows us to have the body tell us exactly what's wrong, and at each level of the joints that are there, including the angles in which these joints exist and the angles in which they move and the order in which you would need to do it. So there's so many variables that are needed to understand that we have as better and additional information than the current gold standard in upper cervical chiropractic. And so we know when layers show up, we know when you're in alignment, we know when you're out of alignment, we know exactly what the misalignment is and the order and the angle in which to correct it. It's this system of information. It's called stress analysis, and the correction is just an upper cervical specific style of adjusting. So in that sense, we can allow the body to unwind every major trauma, remove every tourniquet, unlock the central nervous system, and then the body heals itself the way it was designed to. And it works every single time. In fact, it hasn't not worked. So that's essentially it.
I can't help but want to ask questions from my perspective. Have I told you? I can't remember if we got into this at all. It was so brief, it felt like last time. But did I give you any of my background at all?
No.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you did, but you go ahead.
Well, most of this crew has heard it before, but I'll give a brief, just because you've intrigued the hell out of me, to be honest. I spent, I don't know, 15 plus years of my life heavily addicted to drugs. So everything you can think of. But the one that really kind of took me to my knees and ended up bringing me to God, to be honest, was heroin. And with heroin came everything else along with it, fentanyl and overdoses. I was Narcaned 8 times. So I was brought back to life through Narcan, at least 3 doses every single time to save my life. So I really honestly have no idea why I'm still here, but that's beside the point. What I wanted to ask was, I know that I look past it, but I'm also well aware that there's been a lot of nerve damage. Just when you take drugs intravenously, you have a tendency to hit or damage nerves. There were certain places where I would try to use to hide my drug addiction, and in those places where I used drugs intravenously, I sometimes would lose feeling in my whole arm. Right, so I went weeks where my 3 out of my 5 fingers were completely numb. When you go into a state of being overdosed or just nodded out, as they would say on the street, your breathing diminishes. You end up in a slumped over position for long periods of time. And at the same time that I'm well aware that I went through all of these things through that course of addiction, I also am very scared of the medical community, whatever you want to call it, the hospital system. So I haven't necessarily gotten everything checked out, but it sounds like, am I correct in thinking that some of this stuff might be really good for somebody? I'm not the only one, is why I put this story out there. I'm not the only one that dealt with addiction. Whether, I believe we all do in some way, shape, or form, whether it was a kid or a coworker, a friend, a parent, whatever it might be. So that's why I'm so open and honest about where I came from. I'm a decade separated from that, so it's not like it happened yesterday. I'm comfortable. Right. I'm comfortable with who I am today. But I think that there's many of us that are scared of the medical community And this sounds to me like it's something that I should probably look into. Does that sound like something that it would help me with? Because I got to be honest now, like I was just telling a story when you weren't on. I sneezed at work the other day in a weird torqued position when I was really close to some other people, and I feel like I broke a rib. I still get like numbing, tingling feelings in my hand. My wrist damn near doesn't work. I didn't exactly live a docile lifestyle. It was pretty exciting, not in a good way. So my body's beat up. I'm 42 years old now, and I'm thinking maybe is this something that would help a guy like me that's put himself through so much like that?
100%, man. So if you're misaligned up top, I just promise you, you're operating at some percentage less, right? So at the very bare minimum, you're going to get back what you have missing already. But if you're asking, is this able to affect the damage done from drug use? I would say to that this: every cell and tissue in the body has an ability to heal. It's just whether or not it has the opportunity, right? And with nerves, they happen slower. So if you have slow regenerative effects combined with some percentage less operation up top, and maybe that operation less is definitely to the area where you have damage, you could see a very, very, very slow response. And so I would say, well, have you had any change in the symptoms in that hand or wherever that you had that experience? Has that changed already since you've quit?
You have me seriously intrigued. I legitimately want to look more into this now because, there's 5 kids involved. And go ahead. What?
Yeah, of course. Did you see improvement already by doing nothing?
No, and that's been my theory in life. Just whatever, it'll heal. I just keep it moving. You know what I mean? It intrigues me that you are in a field that you just claimed earlier also saved your life. Like that in itself seems like a God moment to me.
Well,
did you realize you were going to get into the field that you would also believe would save your life?
No, I mean, I had no idea. Dude, if you wanted to hear the story of why I decided to be a chiropractor, it's probably the most boring story ever. I mean, I was always just kind of a smart kid, and my parents always told me, well, you got to go to college, that's what you got to do. And they were talking about degrees you could get, and they were like, you should be a doctor. And I was like, okay, whatever. As a kid, I didn't know, right? So I was like, all right, I'll be a doctor. But, when my mom got cancer, the medical system ruined her through chemotherapy and et cetera. And I believe she died from that. And that, on top of the fact that I'm just not a big fan of blood, I just didn't want to go into the medical community. So I was thinking about what kind of doctor could I be, thinking in the terms of health that wasn't a medical doctor. And so that pretty much left an eye doctor, a dentist, and a chiropractor, right? Or a physical therapist too, right? And so I was like, well, eye doctor sounds boring, and nobody really wants to play in anybody else's mouth, especially if they're there to get dental work. So those two were off the list. And so that left physical therapist and a chiropractor. And at the time, chiropractors can do physical therapy, but PTs can't do chiropractic. So I was like, all right, I'll be a chiropractor. And literally was like that. I had never even been to one. It was just nuts, right? Like the first time I'd ever gotten adjusted by a chiropractor was probably after I'd been in chiropractic school. So totally just absolutely random and nonchalant. So weird. I know.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like my story. So the end of that story, the good part was that I don't know if this is completely good, but the reason I ended up on the path I'm on is because my old man was passing away, and it was my last day in prison, and he told everyone in the room, which I wasn't in because I was in my last day in jail 3,000 miles away, that he wanted everybody to go vote for Donald Trump. And when I found that out, I didn't understand. And it sent me on this journey. And that's when I started following guys like you and the Awakened Outlaws and the whole We the Media crew, everybody. And that's the whole reason I'm here today. And like, that was my God moment. And it feels like to me, listening to you, tell me about something that you're so passionate about and helping so many people, so many other people with, that also is saving your life is one of those moments. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Hey, just a normal guy like anybody else. I may have had the jump on some folks because I was already there when Q showed up. But I mean, I think that those of us that are in the movement, for the most part, are here because we just, we're sick of the bullshit and we want the world to change. We want not only what's better for America, but humanity in general. So, all about the children and the future generations, and of course the life that we live. So we just do whatever we can, right? And this is just the path that I happen to be on. Total God thing, absolutely, 100%, all the way down to, I had to go to this other chiropractor to even have her adjust me to where I had a seizure, to then have to go to another chiropractor. Like, why did the first guy even take off work that time? Because his friend had cancer. He'd never taken a day off work in 30 years. So, like all these weird things. Why did I even leave Colorado in the first place, right? Because COVID came and shut down all the business after I took out a massive loan. Like, I would never have left. So just one series of events after another. And I think we're all, doing our best to try to help in some sort of way. And, I'm no different. I'm just a normal guy like everybody else, right?
Yeah. I don't want to forget about this question. So I don't even know that I can say that. But Joe asked Dr. C about treating idiopathic intracranial hypertension, please. Is that something?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So let's just break that down real quick, right? The word, they like to use these things, naming these things.
Wait for it. I'll be back. Dr. C, boom.
Know why it's there. And intracranial, so intra means within, and cranial means cranium, so within the skull. And hypertension. Hyper means increased, hypo would mean decreased, and tension means pressure. So we have inside the head increased pressure, and they don't have any idea why it's there. All right. But instead of saying that, they had to call it idiopathic intracranial hypertension. So what happens is remember, cerebral spinal fluid is the circulatory system of the central nervous system. It's traveling within the meninges. It's kind of like a hose that bathes the entire central nervous system in it, and there's a flow to it, right? So if you think about it like a hose, though, that it has a flow and a direction and a rate and a pressure in it, and you put a kink in that hose, it's going to alter the way that it is allowed to flow and the rate and the direction and the pressure of that fluid, right? This is Pascal's law, and it's dealing with forces and fluids. So when you trap by way of misalignment, you create a block in the way cerebral spinal fluid flows. You can trap it inside the skull, and that will increase in pressure as it builds up behind it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so depending on how much pressure and where it's trapped, it can manifest in different kinds of ways. If it gets trapped behind the eyes, it manifests in glaucoma. It needs to be a certain pressure. If it gets trapped behind the cerebellum and it's high enough, you can get what's called Chiari malformation, of which there is no cure but this. And if it's just kind of diffuse everywhere, well, then you may feel it, and especially at lower levels, like not enough to really push cranium tissue or cortex tissue or cerebellar tissue anywhere, you'll get that increased pressure inside. So it's cerebral spinal fluid. That's what it is. But it's not that the cerebral spinal fluid has a problem maintaining pressure. It's that someone's literally putting a squeeze on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so all you have to do is unlock that, remove the squeeze, and the cerebral spinal fluid flow will return to normal. And so if your cerebral spinal fluid flow returns to normal, you can do so many things, including healing central nervous system tissue like the spinal cord or the brain, right? That's why I really want to find somebody that has a major spinal cord injury, but it's still intact and they're probably paralyzed. I want to try it because there's no reason at all that the spinal cord wouldn't heal. It just needs to have cerebral spinal fluid, right? Right.
That's interesting.
Isn't it though?
I have so many more questions, but I don't want to skip over the chat. So Tipsy asked a while back if this could do anything for anxiety.
All right. So anxiety, there's lots of reasons why people can have anxiety, but the main ones, you got to remember, anxiety is a fight or flight issue. It's also a neurotransmitter imbalance. So when you have two major neurotransmitters in high amounts or altered, then you can have anxiety. And one of them is serotonin, and the other one is noradrenaline or norepinephrine. And norepinephrine is also is a hormone, but in this case, inside the cerebral spinal fluid, it acts as a neurotransmitter, and it puts you into fight or flight, right? If you have a kink there, you have a problem transporting the neurotransmitters in the first place, and so you can be operating with some sort of deficit resulting in anxiety. But your parasympathetic nervous system that allows you to come into rest and digest is also in the brainstem, and so when it is directly compressed, the only other part of the nervous system you could be in is your fight or flight, right? This is the autonomic function. Rest and digest is parasympathetic, and fight or flight is sympathetic. So you get forced into sympathetic, you go into fight or flight. That means little tiny eensy things will trigger you into a full-on fight or flight response, whereas the same normal trigger or that same response to somebody else who's normal, they don't get put into that same type of response because they're not stuck over here. And so those two usually in combination, altered neurotransmitter transport and imbalances plus being in a state of fight or flight, this is anxiety, right?
Okay.
So yes, in that sense, if we resume normal function, then anxiety is allowed to heal. But what about people who have drug-induced neurotransmitter imbalances? And so, the long answer is very detailed, but the short answer is yes. But you also have to provide a deficit, and you have to show up with the demand and precursors to rebuild, right? So it's a longer process, but it absolutely can still resolve.
Absolutely brilliant. So, what's your cutoff here? IT 9. Sorry, whatever time it is, 2:30.
Yeah, dude. I actually booked you until 2:45. But that's my time. So, and I'll have to be in there probably by 2:30 to get ready from lunch.
Understand. Well, the only reason I'm asking, I just want to transition just a little bit so we could do something fun before we get out of here. I just wanted to ask you some questions about the movement as well.
Oh, sure.
First of all, can you tell me, as somebody that I wasn't there for the beginning, so like, how about the origin of your name, Inevitable ET?
So I was just trying to find a random moniker, and let me see if I can pull up the exact Q post, but I think it's Q post 1143. and it said, "To my fellow incarnated extraterrestrials." Well, that was too long, and so I changed it to incarnated ET, and I just made it that, right? That was my first IET. And then every time I got banned, I had to kind of change the I word, and I just kept the ET. And so then, I was incarcerated ET, and eventually I landed on inevitable ET. But, I don't want the ET to be associated with extraterrestrials in the sense of aliens,
Yeah.
So I now say IET stands for, in my mind, an inevitable existential threat. So this movement it's an existential threat for them, right?
See, I'm glad I asked you.
And that's words out of Donald Trump's mouth, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
our
awesome.
movement. What? Yeah, exactly. So IET, yeah, whatever. And now because I've used it, it's a brand and people recognize it, so it carries around, but I don't even go by it hardly anymore. DrC is normally, yeah.
It's 100% a brand, bro. Sorry.
I mean, it is, right? I get it. Like, I understand how it works.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing I think that I've done the last year or so with the Rambo thing, and I almost like, damn, I wish I would have thought of something cooler than just accepting the nickname my friends gave me.
Dude, but it is what it is, right? It doesn't matter. I mean, there are people that have completely random names, like they're just gibberish, and then people will remember them as something. But that doesn't matter. It's like they already have made the association. So
Yeah, yeah. Can I ask you some, like, I mean, you have to see at least a little bit of the types of things that I post. Being that I'm a second gen anon, that's what I call myself, right? I wasn't there with all you guys in the beginning. I'm so grateful for what you guys did. But what I see certainly doesn't seem to be talked about as much from the OGs. And so
what
there's
is that? What does it?
I think I speak a little bit more freely than some. I think people speak with a purpose, and I think that everyone's purpose is to motivate people to get up and stand up and do something.
Sure.
Which is why I try to be very careful in the way that I post, but I do get accused a lot of, nobody's coming to save you type of stuff. So I don't think that's ever my intention, although I just can't help but tell the truth as I see it. That's the way that I look at it anyway. And when I do that, I know that the intention of what I believe the operation is to motivate people. Just because I know there's an operation going on to motivate people doesn't mean I'm telling you to sit there and put your feet up. I'm certainly telling you that if you're aware that that operation is happening, then we should be furthering that, right? I think that I agree with all the people that criticize me, but there's a dig that I'm like really into right now, and I found it interesting that I always give credit. The Stormy Patriot Joe and Absolute were talking about it just a day or two ago, and it's been something that I've been talking about on this show here for a while. So it's just like a fun question, but being a guy that was there for the drops and you lived through them all, and being who you are, I'd like to ask you, do you believe that 2016 was a protected vote, or do you believe that we overwhelmed the vote and Donald Trump actually won that way? Or it's just kind of like a something I've been really looking into, and I'm trying to figure out what, hindsight's 2020, and 2016 seems to be becoming more and more clear the more that we see things come out in the news cycle and Donald Trump talks, and the more I look back into the drops. So do you have an opinion on 2016 as far as those questions I just asked?
Well, so, I mean, it's all speculation, right? Because none of us have any idea how they actually managed to do it. But if you were asking my opinion, I would say it's, a little bit of everything. I think, one, they did not prepare for Donald Trump being so successful in the eyes of the American public. They thought the grab him by the pussy thing was going to take him out, right? But and I think he was kind of taken aback by that, and we can get into speculation on whether or not that video was even real or if it was AI. You notice it was just audio, but anyway, Maybe he did, maybe he didn't say it. But he was not defeated because people still had this like America first, like we need to save America, like let's make America great again. That was something people really caught on to. And I think people from both sides even were just like, we're sick and tired of the nonsense. Now, obviously there was then the mainstream media taking over and getting everybody to go against him. And the fact that his numbers were so high, the uniparty, they know how to cheat, they know how to do things, okay, but the way they do it, and I think you can see, is that it's like 1,000 cuts from everywhere, right? So they're relying upon a lot of different things to happen, and perhaps they had some vote flipping abilities on machines, and I think maybe what happened is they prevented the vote flipping, and they just had to rely upon the other style, and when the lead was too much, they didn't have enough. They didn't prepare. Like they just were completely blindsided, right? So I think somehow the good guys prevented the electronic style of cheating, and that they were only able to implement the manual style of cheating. And so we overwhelmed it, right? So both. And I don't think that it was just a purely controlled event, in other words. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. Yes. And here, I'll show you. And I'm sure you remember this. This is what, and I'm only going to show the actual drop for a second because I don't want to get us kicked off of YouTube. But so drop 14, I'll just go to my part where I clipped it and wrote it myself so we don't get ourselves in trouble. But it says, does POTUS know where the bodies are buried? Does POTUS have the goods on most bad actors? Was Trump asked to run for president? Interesting. Why? By who? Was Hillary Rodham Clinton next in line? Was the election supposed to be rigged? This is talking about 2016, right? Did good people prevent the rigging? Why did POTUS form a panel to investigate? And has POTUS ever made the statement that did not become proven as true or fact? Look, none of this really matters right now. I just find it so interesting to go back and look at all your guys' work. And it seems to me, the more I look, that this is more than a possibility.
well, yeah, dude, they prevented it in the sense that they intervened in some sort of way that was meaningful, that they're cheating, right? They just had to overcome Donald Trump's vote count. Well, they didn't anticipate losing by as much as they did, right? So if all they have to do is block, 2-3 million votes, fake votes, and they can stop the cheating and we could win, maybe they did that through the machines. I have no idea. Yeah.
Doc, this is the questions that arise for me by that. If it comes to the fact that you believe that drop's asking you a question for a reason, then two things come to my mind. So one would be, I think would be the obvious one. If they were able to protect 2016, then that logically means that they allowed 2020 to happen.
Well, yeah, because Obama pardoned them all, right? I mean, we assume secretly pardoned these people, and so we had to allow them to recreate these crimes. And I think that what they're doing is using the RICO so that there is no statute of limitations. And then we're also letting them, in some degree, fight out publicly, execute their plan to some degree to wake the people up, right? So like this is still real, but I would like to hope, to think, to believe that there's some sort of fail-safe back there to prevent the full-on precipice, but we're hanging on the edge pretty good right now,
Yeah. Well, here's my other question. If we were to buy into that being a possibility. So first, if 2016 was, I asked that question. The second question would be, the military typically is supposed to not act without civilian/commander-in-chief direction, without an order. So if 2016 was something that was protected, if we were to buy into that, then who the hell gave the order? You see where I'm questioning?
Yeah, maybe they acted without
Yeah, I
orders.
wonder if it's an oath thing. Like, I wonder if it's, if they take an oath to protect. So maybe someone decided that what was happening was against the law and they were able to do it legally.
Sure.
Or, like Ronald Reagan, I talked about this yesterday, but Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan was "Make America Great Again." So you start getting back into all these things that are hypotheticals and fun to look at. I understand, but it's just kind of where I'm at with digging right now because it's fun to do and people are interested in it. And I believe that this process has been going on longer than we are aware of. So I don't know.
Do the digging. Yeah, it's fun to uncover stuff. Maybe the older anons that have been around longer are less into it just because, kind of been there, done that. We're waiting for things to finally go down. How many times we predicted events were going to happen based upon the drops that didn't,
You saw this yesterday, right? Can you see your screen?
I didn't see anything yesterday, but I did see that all the drops seem to be really matching up.
Bro, like crazy. This one, so Enoch put this. This is one of Enoch's graphics.
Yeah.
Love that dude. 3921, which was exact 4-year delta yesterday. FISA indictments equals start. And what was trending on Twitter? But hashtag FISA. From Jordan, Lauren Boebert, Matt Gaetz, Bishop.
Yeah, right.
Every single one of them. It was like all of DC decided to go out and say, get a warrant, hashtag FISA.
Well, hey, man, you ain't got to convince me that this is going on. Some of these decodes are really cool to see it happening right on schedule. Like, especially for the new people that are like, oh, we all thought this was going to happen so long ago with the way that, right, the date fagging, they call it.
Yeah.
So does it surprise me at all right now that this is happening and that they're lined up like awesome? Not at all. Right.
Yeah.
But we still got to see major action on the other side. Right. And so these drops mean nothing until then. So I'm like, yeah, dude, this is awesome. We already know Q's legit and that things are timed up perfectly like this. Where's the major arrest? Where's the military intervention? Where's the, we got to get this back to where it's good again. We got to actually make America great again. So that's where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily following every detail anymore, but I'm watching the major stuff. And I'm still here. Not to say that you guys shouldn't do that. By all means, do dig in. It's real fun.
Well, that's the really cool part is that you guys all kind of laid the groundwork, and then guys like me and the people that I hang out with and the newer ones get to continue to do it. I mean, this is such a long process, and if it is a great awakening process, it's only logical that more would join us every day, and they are. I mean, you can see it. It's obvious. It's real. So
Dude,
yeah,
go
ahead.
Do you know what the first Q post is, like, ever? Like, what it says?
Wait, I mean the Hillary Clinton one?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. So, do you know the next time that it's going to be Monday, October 30th?
Is that coming up 2025?
Yes, 25. Yeah.
Huh. You just sent me. Oh, here we go. All right, dude. Now I'm gonna spend a week doing this, dude.
So, I'm just saying, like, I think this year we're getting massive exposure, right? I mean, it is coming every angle, big stuff, just the whole Diddy and all of the celebrities connected. So many people are awake, like it's the amount of people that are not just blindly accepting whatever Israel's doing starting to question the Israel narrative. And man, dude, I mean, people are waking up at 1,000,000 miles a second right now. So I think all this year, this is only going to get more intense. Like we're dripping, like pretty darn close to flood. So all year, all the way up to election year, it's going to make it to where, dude, ain't nobody voting for them. Right?
Dude, your comment just completely set off all these triggers in my head, because the drops kind of feel like they're playing out backwards, like a countdown.
Well, yeah, probably. That's probably the last one. Hillary gets arrested October 30th next year.
Oh, man, that's the worst date fact ever. That's awesome.
But I mean, like, what if it took that long? People are thinking, oh, I don't want to wait. Like, listen,
well, note the last 2 years, note the next 6. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like what, you were told in advance, and what would be the ultimate Q proof, right? So.
Oh, man.
If she got arrested at that time on Monday, October 30th, 2025.
I'm going up to circle my calendar.
I mean, that would be the craziest, most awesome thing. All right, we all hope it happens soon.
I know.
There's a natural progression of things that have to happen. The people have to wake up. It says in the Q drops, public awakening equals game over. All right, so this is a game. It is a series of chess moves, right? It's game theory. So every move has a certain number of responses that you could give. If you think of it like chess, like you can make another move. Well, how do you position yourself, including sacrifices, so that in the end, no matter what moves and choices they make, you have the appropriate answer that takes you to the destination you want to go? It's essentially game theory. This is playing out live. They actually have real moves, But there's an answer, and there's certain things that are timed that I think are forced. And so by forcing the public awake at just the right rate, think about it, they just dumped all this information back when we thought it should have been done in 2018. Nobody was ready for that.
No.
A few hundred anons that had just figured Q existed a couple months ago, maybe a few thousand. Okay, nothing crazy. We wouldn't have changed the world. Like, COVID hadn't even happened yet. People still trusted the American medical system. Like, there's just, you see my point? So there was this necessary, slow, drawn out, like real war that was happening behind the scenes before, that is kind of coming out onto the surface, and it's waking people up. Well, in the end, once everybody's awake, there's no going back to sleep. Maybe we won't save 4 to 6% of the population, but
Bro,
that's still a huge number, if you think about America, 4 to 6%. It's like 13.5 to 19 million people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's a lot.
I'm putting you up against it with time. I want to take a minute before you get out of here to first and foremost say,
dude, I got a whole another hour. We're good.
Oh, wait, you do?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I'm sitting here thinking you got to go.
No. I have an hour.
All right. All right, cool. Let's hang out then. All right. I was pushing all this stuff here at the end to try to get you to talk about. All right, cool. That sounds great to me then.
Dude, we'll just bounce around. Whatever you got, dude. I got another hour.
All right. Well, let's think then. Let's see what's ask questions, guys. I thought I was wrapping up. So I'm gonna maybe I'll pull a couple things. Oh, see, you're gonna challenge me. Go ahead.
Did you want to know more about the upper cervical stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. If we got more time, please, let's keep going.
So, like, I don't know. I mean, people sometimes have questions about their specific conditions. My favorite question is that, does this work for ... fill in the blank, XYZ condition, right? Try to understand that, number one, Western medicine, Western healthcare, even the Eastern, whatever, they like to think of diseases where they name them in Latin, right? There's prefixes and suffixes. There's just root words, and they change them by translating them into another language, or they get a collection of symptoms and they'll name it a syndrome after somebody who did the research, right? So like Guillain-Barré, that was a dude,
Gotcha.
right? Okay. So let's just talk about, because it's going around, myocarditis. What does that mean? Myo is muscle. Cardio, myocardio, that would have been heart muscle. And then itis means inflammation. So you have heart muscle inflammation. But I just told you had myocarditis. So what does that really mean? You have damage to your heart and there's an inflammatory response. So they get everybody thinking that they have these crazy diseases that their body can't heal from. But really what they do is they name the symptoms, and they name it in such a way that it sounds like it's really scary and that you don't know or have a single clue. If I told you you had eosinophilic gastroenteritis, and you might think, oh, wow, that sounds terrible. Well, eosinophils are immune cells that are responsible for allergies, allergic reactions, and parasite infections. And then if I said you had gastroenteritis, that meant that your stomach and your small intestine were inflamed. So gastro, stomach, entero, small intestine, itis, inflammation. Eosinophilic gastroenteritis. I just said you had an allergic reaction with inflammation in your stomach and small intestine, probably to food, right? Okay, does that sound scary, or does the other one sound scary? And so
The other one sounds scary as hell.
Right. People love to, they say, hey, can this help this? Here's the deal. The brain is designed to control, operate, heal, regenerate the entire body. Every cell and tissue, every single one, all organs, all physiological functions, everything, including nerves, everything. It just has to have the opportunity. I mean, literally, the healing response is written on your DNA. And so when you are not healing from something, or when there is a problem that is getting worse, the first thing that you have to look at is there a communication problem? Is the brain able to communicate with the rest of the body? Yes or no? Is the brain malfunctioning because it is being mechanically blocked, or is it damaged, or chemically or physically? Does it have adequate cerebrospinal fluid flow, right? Or is it missing nutrients? The brain has to regenerate or needs to build new nerves. Okay, what about what the brain is made up of? Are you consuming that nutrient? Is the liver, which makes it, able to make it? And so what you're eating, you may be missing a macro or micro nutrient. These things are essential, meaning you have to take them in. It's like essential as breathing oxygen and drinking water, right? Are you missing oxygen somewhere? Are you missing water somewhere? Are you missing a nutrient? Or is there some sort of toxicity? Is there a heavy metal or a halogen like fluoride or bromide or percolates or mercury, aluminum, cadmium, however many heavy metals that there are? You can name a bunch of them, lead. Anyway, some sort of organic compound, not in the sense of being clean, like grown organically, but organic meaning carbon based.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. Asbestos, is that a heavy metal?
Asbestos is a silica based thing, so is not necessarily a heavy metal, but it tends to react, just with the tissue around it. It causes a lot of destruction.
I've been dealing with this a lot at work because I what I do for a living right now, my 9 to 5 is that we burn trash and we make electricity. So I deal a lot with having to protect myself from heavy metals in the atmosphere, from breathing
Yeah,
them.
man. So you want to know like what your body has as far as a design to protect itself from toxicity, because you have to imagine that if God created us, he had to have created a system where you could be protected from these things, right? So you have a liver, you have kidneys, you have a filtration system, but you also use iodine. And if you have iodine, plentiful amounts of iodine in the system, you can repel and detoxify the body of these heavy metals and halogens. In fact, it will even pull them out of your cells and tissues and force them out of your body. Did you know that even with radiation, okay, you guys can look this up, don't even believe me. If you get radiation poisoning, either from some sort of nuclear power plant meltdown or massive exposure to radiation, or some sort of nuke went off and you had radiation poisoning. Do you want to know what the standard treatment for radiation poisoning is? 150 milligrams of iodine, which is a massive dose, by the way. But it's iodine. Yeah, dude, if you just, there's all kinds of ways that your body's designed to protect itself. If you overwhelm the system, if you have toxicity, if you have infectious processes that won't heal, if you have a lack of communication, therefore operation and regeneration from a literal mechanical block on the brainstem, right? Or if you can't remove waste, that's the last thing, like your just ability to remove the waste. Those 4 things, that's what I do. We address that. And then if you can do those 4 things, what's really stopping you from healing? Does this work for XYZ? Yes. Is it part of the human body? Yes. Okay. If it's already dead, I can't bring it back to life. You can't bring it back to life. If it's torn all the way through, okay, it's not going to join back together. Like if your femur is broken in 2 and it's hanging out your leg, you should probably go get surgery, right, to have that put back. And any true genetic malformation. So Down syndrome is a chromosome issue. What am I to do about that, right? So I'm not giving anybody superpowers. I just give you back what you're missing. Most people that think they have a genetic disorder, it's in my family history. It is not actually a genetic disorder. You see, your genes can adapt. That's normal. But you weren't necessarily born this way. So if you have something that showed up later in life, it's not written on your genes, it's not written on your DNA. It just manifested because of a chronic environment. It's just like standing outside will make you tan. You didn't change your DNA, it just adapted. Right?
Gotcha. I'm about to show how uneducated I am on this whole thing. When I said asbestos, I was thinking arsenic. That was one that we've been dealing with at work recently in training. So arsenic is a heavy metal, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the one we've been getting training on here recently. I just mixed up the names.
Well, either way, dude, you just need to get some iodine in the system, and I can help you with that offline later. We'll talk about it. You don't want to just start taking it. It needs to be a thing that you do carefully, because it will trigger a detox. That's a fact.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Let me take 1 second. So American Patriot Q gifted a $2 Rumble rant. First and foremost, thank you very much. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. Joe, you need to do a video on Hillary Rodham Clinton and her being put in the van. I did do that about a year ago, but I can repost it if you guys want to see that thread. But I did absolutely already. There's been tons of questions here, Dr. See, I'm trying to go back up because you're so brilliant. I don't want to interrupt. Somebody was asking about migraines. I lost the specific question, but there's I believe they were asking for a percentage on, if you had a guesstimate on what you think your process for healing does for people with migraines. Is it successful, not successful type of deal?
100% across the board success. Yeah. Migraines are actually not what people think they are. And it's the brain trying to respond to a problem with sensory input. Essentially, allow the brain to be fully open, and it will heal itself by giving you a few migraines, and then all of a sudden it stops. So the migraine itself can be triggered by something that adds to an existing and exacerbates an existing condition, but the condition is the problem directly at the brainstem, and it's a sensory information issue, which is why people see um, increases of visual disturbances. Um, Sounds can be very sensitive. Normal sensory information is felt as heightened or painful, and they have to go sit in a dark room. It's a bypass of a sensory deprivation, and it's the brain trying to work around it and heal. So it's kind of like a body has a fever. It's the in response to, not necessarily the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when you restore it, then the migraines are allowed to do what they were going to do, which would be to heal you. And then eventually they stop because they work, right? Your body is designed to heal itself.
So I know that this is different, but in a way, it seems like it might be similar. How about dementia? Somebody's asking about.
Okay, so dementia, you actually have a lot of people with dementia at some point in time have been on statin drugs. And so there's either been physical or chemical damage to the brain, and a decrease of cerebral spinal fluid flow is allow the brain to degenerate in certain areas, and that's what you see as dementia. Or they're on statin drugs, and so even if they weren't necessarily fully kinked off, they were inhibiting their liver's ability to make cholesterol. Cholesterol is the majority constituency of myelination, and that's how the brain would regenerate, is you would need to remyelinate. So they usually, their brain falls apart faster because they're being inhibited via a prescription drug. So does this work for dementia? I mean, the answer to the question is, can the body heal the brain tissue? Yes. There's a time factor, though. And it's not to say that it's not worth trying, but if, you have dementia, more than likely you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s, which means you spent decades acquiring this condition. It will not heal in one night. And I don't do any of the healing, right? It is your body. So many factors are in play here. Are you going to continue to shut off cholesterol production? Are you going to show up with saturated fats, usually animal fat? That is what your body would prefer to make nerves and myelin sheaths from. It would prefer to make cholesterol from this, omega-3s, right? Are you going to show up with the vitamins and minerals? Are you going to continue to put in toxicity? Are you going to have additional traumas? Are you going to be able to clear out every layer? If the answer to these questions is yes, you can do all of this. There are people that have had massive turnarounds with their neurological conditions. I mean, from Parkinson's to multiple sclerosis to fibromyalgia to autonomic dysfunction in POTS and PANDAS. But yeah, absolutely. I had a guy that is Alzheimer's, and he came in, I cleared a layer off of him, and literally the very next day, it was like he didn't even have Alzheimer's. It was like he was back to normal.
Wow.
Right? And then his body entered into healing, which means it had to inflame. So guess what it went back to doing? And then he came into a stability portion, and he kind of came back. And then he's got to go through layers. And so there's these ups and downs that are associated with the healing process. But eventually, yeah, what happens? The brain heals. Just like anything else, just like a cut on the arm, it will heal, but you have to show up with all the things. You got to give the opportunity.
So how about autism, Dr. Kirk?
So from my understanding, autism, for the most part, is a heavy metal problem. The toxicity issue, it's causing different reactions with neurotransmitters and nerve function inside the brain. And so you can have people have autism and have no upper cervical misalignment. You can have people with autism that have upper cervical misalignment. What they usually all have in common is that they have also been heavy metal poisoned with vaccines or some sort of heavy metal. I don't know which. I don't think that part is prudent. But if the heavy metals are trapped in their cranium, then you still have to open up the upper cervical joints to restore cerebral spinal fluid to get them out. And then 2, you got to use iodine to get them to detox it. And if you can do those things, neurological function can be allowed to be rewired, relearned.
This is a sidebar question. This is outside your scope. This is more of just an opinion, bantering with a friend type of question. But
sure.
First, just an observation, and then I want to see what you think about my observation. It seems to me that the deep state, for lack of a better description, those in power used certain things to break down society. One of which was vaccines. Another of which was drugs, trafficking of drugs. I mean, it's if you look into it, it becomes very obvious that a lot of the drugs in this country were brought in here by 3-letter agencies trading for guns to Contras and then literally flooding our streets with it. There's a couple things that I've noticed in my experience is that, first of all, autistic people seem to be brilliant when it comes to the drops, when it comes to decoding. I don't want to go and call people out as autistic, but I think everybody can kind of think of 1 or 2 that blow your mind when it comes to decoding and putting a message out on social media and causing a ripple, which is affecting all of society. Well, I think the same comes with my experience with drug addicts, where they seem to have a much more free thought process, where you're not going to just listen to what the establishment tells you as truth. Do those 2 points make sense to you? Do you think that my observation's out of line?
I mean, are you asking, like, is it because of drugs that autism is allowed to proliferate, which then makes you smarter and unable to be brainwashed?
I think I'm actually making 2 separate points. The drugs that they pushed on the society have, well, first of all, caused tons and tons of damage. But I think the one thing they didn't calculate was that the people that survived it and came out of it were very free thinkers and very anti establishment. And on the other hand, the completely separate point was that they used vaccines to depopulate, to do whatever they did in our society. And it caused, from at least my research, I know that it's highly debated, but at least some level of the autism we're seeing in our country. And you've come up with some of the most brilliant people that we have.
I don't know that I can make an obvious connection to the reason why some people are more brainwashable or hardened to waking up and others are more readily ready to wake up and resist.
That's fair.
But I can say for sure that with drug use, you can alter neurotransmitters. And that's generally speaking how they work. And they use that for a depopulation agenda for sure. If we can fight each other and kill each other or kill ourselves, because of some sort of neurotransmitter, neurological dysfunction, mental health issue, they would welcome that for sure. That's why they give everybody, and they do ship in these drugs. They wanted to use it to destroy us. So you see people that suffer from addictions. It controls and rules their lives and destroys their own lives from their own actions. And it's all neurotransmitter based, right? And vaccines, I mean, dude, we could go all day on what I think about vaccines, but
Yeah, right.
Vaccines have always been, since the influenza vaccine came out, or the first vaccine came out back in 1948, I think, maybe right there. They started bringing vaccines out. They did it to the military first, but they brought them out to civilian population later. And then 2 years after that is when they did a very special study to essentially try to fool the world into thinking that iodine was toxic. So all of these vaccines since then, 1940s, have been DNA or RNA based, right? That is the essentiality of a vaccine, a virus. It's that it contains genetic code, and it will get into the nucleus of a cell and alter that cell's genetic information. Well, that changes how that cell functions. This is the virus, right? And so, you can argue about whether or not viruses were man-made or not, but either way, if some of them are organic or others are not, it does not matter. It is iodine that is required by your immune system in order to adequately eliminate any cell that has altered DNA. We don't want to just keep it sequestered and turned off via immune function. We want to absolutely just get rid of it. We want to kill it. We want to destroy it and send it out of the body. So that whole process is something called P53, P21, and P16. So that's cellular senescence and cellular apoptosis. That's how you stop cell growth, cell replication, and then if it doesn't work, to reprogram the DNA, then to kill it, to schedule it for cell death. They did a study right then and there, and they got rid of the iodine out of everything. They got it out of the food, they got it out of the bread, the bakeries, they got it out of the medicine. It was no longer used, and you're going to your general physician, because it used to be used for everything back in the day. Oh, you got a sickness? Here, just take iodine. It works great, by the way. Completely antiseptic. So it's the most antiseptic thing in the world, actually. But they stopped using it, and they convinced everybody that if you took it in high doses, that you were going to have a thyroid problem. But really what they did was they used radioactive iodine in their study, and they didn't inform people that that was really the reason why their study was showing the results. And anyway, by getting iodine out of the system, they were allowed to proliferate these vaccines. And now you got all these vaccine injured people, and the heavy metals they put in there and they claim to be adjuvants are really causing people a lot of problems. And if you don't know what an adjuvant is, it's supposed to be an immune stimulant. It's some sort of noxious, dangerous stimulus that is dangerous enough to get the immune system to respond with enough aggression at the same time as they present their vaccine. Does that make sense?
It does. And I know that you said that you'd talk to me on back channels about this, but B. Combs is asking, can you give at least like a brief overview on what, like, I don't want anyone to just go ahead and do anything on their own, obviously. And I think
Hey, listen, you shouldn't, right? Because if you don't have somebody watching over and helping you through this, like doing the detox, you can find all kinds of fun detoxes online and experience Herxheimer reactions that let people do it on their own, kind of. But one of the things that iodine does that is different is that it knows how to pull the heavy metals out of your cells and tissues, right? So some of these other detoxes are just binders that they pick up the stuff that's floating around. It's not in the cells and tissues. It's still going to do you a great benefit. But when you detox it all, the detoxing can be pretty intense, and it is directly related to how much iodine you put in. And so,
What do you mean by intense?
Like the rate of which you detox can produce Herxheimer reactions that are not fun. If you went too fast, I mean, you might scare yourself enough to go to the emergency room thinking, something was seriously wrong. But if you go slow, then you can kind of mitigate most of this, and it will go slow, and you'll never get to the point where you're scared and out of control. But your body does have a rate at which it can do this detox, and it can't just do it as fast as some of us would like for it to go, maybe, right? So
gotcha.
I'm happy to help anybody to do it, but you need to just make yourself a patient of mine. And I think that would be the best recommendation. I actually don't recommend people do it on their own, although I understand that some of them will.
So I'm going to throw two at you at once and let you pick which one, only because you led into the one that when you weren't in here, somebody asked how they could possibly take advantage of what you're talking about. Like, so you're talking about make themselves a patient of yours. I know that you go use that facility that Pepe has. Is there ways that people can go about trying to reach and come see you for these treatments?
Yeah. So right now, if you want to come see me personally, or if you want to telehealth or consult, you're going to have to identify who you are as a person, right? Especially coming from offline, it's not an unreasonable request that you essentially identify yourself. So anybody that wants to make contact with my professional and private life needs to send me an email, and the email can go to it's DrCHW17 right? So that's Dr. CHW17, the two numbers, at Gmail. You have to send me a copy of your driver's license, and you got to take a selfie, and it needs to match your driver's license. And then you send that along with a quick write-up of what's going on and what you're requesting, and send me, your contact information. We turn around and then screen everybody that wants to get in. And if they know how to follow instructions, then we'll make contact back with them. But that's kind of how we can protect our business, knowing that, getting this interview on your platform, we just have no idea who could be listening and wanting to take advantage
for sure.
of the situation, right?
Without question. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you once I'm ready here again. Before we leave, I want to get that website again so I can, or I'm sorry, your email so I can put it up in the chats, but I'm trying to do 97 things at once here. The other question that we got was about tinnitus. Does what you do help with tinnitus at all?
All right. So tinnitus comes from your vestibular cochlear nerve, right? The cochlear part of that is your hearing. That's what's inside your ear canal, right? You've probably heard of cochlear implants. Those are hearing aids. All of the tinnitus comes from an inflammatory response on the cochlear nerve. It can be a compressive one at the brainstem from upper cervical misalignment. It can be from damage because you were physical trauma, somebody hit you there, or, lots of gunfire or loud music. You can kind of get it that way. And like anything else, the inflammatory process happens when there's damage, and the damage needs to be repaired. Well, if you want to repair a nerve, you got to show up with cholesterol. You got to open up the space and decompress the vestibular cochlear nerve, and then you got to give it rest. And like anything else that has an opportunity to rest and full of nutrients and hydration and adequate nerve flow, yeah, absolutely. And so, it's just a matter of which layer of misalignment was the one responsible. But yeah, tinnitus resolves all the time.
You're kind of blowing my mind with how many things can positively be affected by this treatment.
Dude, because it all goes through. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's literally everything right here, right? Right at the upper cervical junction. That's where your brainstem is. That's where everything that's important and that controls every cell and tissue, literally everything. I don't know. It's almost too big to fathom. And so, oh man, I don't even, like, I just straight up tell people, like, I don't really treat disease. That's not what I do. I don't treat symptoms. I don't really care what your symptoms are, right? I mean, I care that you as people don't feel good and you have various issues, but when you turn the body back on, what is it going to do if it's got an issue with a cell and tissue and it didn't know about it and now all of a sudden it does? What is it going to do? It's going to heal, right?
Does insurance cover this stuff?
Hell no.
Okay, I didn't think so, but that's why I was asking.
No way. Insurance doesn't cover anything that works, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's horrible that I'm laughing at that, but it's so true.
Dude, it's so true. It is so true. I mean, I think chiropractors have, we are accepted as something that insurance will pay for, but like the way it's set up, it's the more adjustments you give, the more money you get to charge. And well, I'm just adjusting C1 and C2, right? So essentially what I would get back from an insurance if I build it would be like $12 plus the copay. And in reality, what I'm doing with that one adjustment, if people really knew, like if they really knew what it was that I was doing and what they were going to get out of it, like long term with the ability to hold it and the benefits they're going to receive from it, that'd be easily $50,000. Easily. Because it's worth so much more than that. People pay millions just to, and I got a guy with a TBI that's coming in. He played college football. He had to be air flighted. He was in a coma with a traumatic brain injury that he's had for the last 20 years. And he's got debilitating conditions beyond what you would think is a normal person should suffer through, right? In a wheelchair, can't do much. And they spent $1 million in 20 years trying to figure out what they can do to bring him back. And guess how many things have worked? Nothing. Nothing has worked. Not one treatment, nothing. They have spent $1 million and they've gone to the best medical doctors in the world. This guy comes to my office January 30th, 2024. He's no longer in a wheelchair. He doesn't use a walker anymore. Like his brain and cognitive function is back. Like he can digest food a heck of a lot better. He's going to the bathroom more normal. His stress and anger levels have been completely reduced. It's only been 2 months, 3 months. Right? It's not me, man. It's you. It's the human body, right? I just opened the door. So why would insurance is never going to pay for that. It would be nice. It would be nice, but they're never going to.
This person's comment makes me want to ask you a question, and I hope it's not an out of line question.
No, go for it, man.
Sometimes it is difficult, especially when people have to pay out of pocket, right? So what I was going to ask is, do you think that what you're doing, what you could only trust to do yourself, or is there other people around the country that you would be willing to recommend also for people that wouldn't have to travel as far?
Yeah. So right now there's 3 other docs that do this, and to get access to them, I have a link published on my Substack. It's DrCHW17.substack.com. There's a whole article on there that shows access to these docs that anybody can get access to. And there are people that are being trained this month and next month, as it just opened up to learn how to do this. So there's going to be more. And right now there's just Washington, and then we have Utah, and then 2 of us are in Texas, the DFW area. And I have one right now kind of working with Pepe in North Carolina, and perhaps opening other offices as well. But this will grow. And I know for a fact that we have a guy that's learning how to do it that's coming from Australia. So this is going to go all around the world. And the proof will be in the pudding, and there will be a huge demand for it. So if you can't make it right now, maybe you want to hold on to it and wait. That's fine. Some people don't want to wait. That's fine. Like, I'm just one guy, right? And if I saw as many people as I possibly could, like, I don't even know that I would get to 150,000 in my entire career. You know, that's not even going to be enough to do a moderate sized city if I got to everybody. See my point?
Yes. Yeah. And can I give a secondhand testimonial?
Sure.
Your assistant is amazing, first and foremost.
Oh.
She is awesome. And if I understood it correctly, she was a patient that you ended up hiring. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. Total like whim thing. And you could call it a God thing. I mean, yeah, she also was saved by this. So, you know, not to say that this doesn't work the same for everybody, because it does, but some people start off really low. So they experience huge miracles, whereas other people that are coming in, they just have minor stuff. They're going to heal from that, but it's not going to seem like anything miraculous, right? So she was one that started off low. She was affected by it, and she has an amazing ability to speak to other people about her experiences and share and relate and befriend. And so I'm sure she told you all about it.
Well, I don't want to get her in trouble because she was probably on the clock, but I'm pretty sure we spent an hour.
No, that's literally what I pay her to do. I want her to do that, you know,
bro. She was so good. I considered having her. I'm still considering having her on.
She's listening, I'm sure. So she'll probably think that's funny, and she's probably gonna be like, "I would love to go to Joe Rambo's show." She's gonna say it.
She's really cool, bro. She's really cool.
I like her. She does well, you know. But yes, I
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I hired her, like, I think it was the third visit that I saw her. I asked her if she was willing to come work, you know.
Oh, I hung up with her, and I'm pretty positive. I looked at Kim and I said, I can see why he hired her. She's really good to talk to.
Yeah, she's good. She's great.
Yeah.
No complaint.
Good. I hope we made her day.
Okay, maybe.
So, there was a couple more because we were encouraging questions. And I have a feeling I already know where this is going by the way you've been answering, but somebody asked about vision.
Yeah, so we're talking about farsighted or nearsighted?
Yeah, I'll have to wait for Warrior for Truth to answer that, but the question was just help with vision. So
it's so many factors to that, right? Like
arthritis. Go ahead.
So vision is probably the better question, and I'll answer arthritis too, but give me a second. Vision can be like what? You can't see far, you can't see close. You could have astigmatism, you could have diabetic retinopathies. So there's problems with blood vessels. There's problems with the actual nerve demyelinating. You could have, I mean, there's so many different things that can happen with the vision. And the only one that I am not aware of that, and maybe I just don't know enough yet, the only one that does not respond is the like what you can't see far away. So that's nearsightedness.
That's what Warrior Truth answered. Nearsighted was what they're concerned about.
Yeah, like, dude, I'm nearsighted too, right? So I can't see far. I haven't found a way to affect that, but what I understand about it is that it is eye shaped, and so the eye shape has to do with the pressure and that cerebral spinal fluid, but then it also has to do with your ability to focus, and the muscles that control the focusing are brainstem, and they have to be like anything else, stressed out. They have to be worked out. Well, if you're wearing glasses or corrective lenses of any kind, and you are used to putting up a certain amount of effort to focus, to retrain those, you have to then remove that, right? So perhaps there is a way. I would think the mechanism for restoring function to that area would be the same, but then, you know, the body responds to the stresses placed on it. So it's not like I do this and all of a sudden somebody grows a big muscular physique. But if they couldn't before because they were working out and it just wasn't responding, and then they applied the same stress unlocked, and all of a sudden they could, I didn't allow them to grow muscles. The stress is placed on them, Their body grew muscles for them. I just opened the door so that their body would, right? It's the same scenario. So like if I open the door to the optic nerve and to cranial nerves 3, 4, 6, and 5, can we get the eye to change shape and control the musculature and the movement of the eye in order to allow it to see far distances again, remove nearsightedness? I would think that is possible, but I haven't tried to stress it enough in order to see if it would respond. And because I've been so busy fixing other people. But everything else, I mean, I don't see why it wouldn't. I just haven't seen it, right? But like every other eye problem, the ability to see up close, like readers, double vision, weird eye movements, weird pupil constriction issues, anisocoria, all of that stuff resolves. Dude, I had a guy one time, he came in, he ran into a twig in a tree. It was like a stiff one. So I guess it did some real damage, but hit him right in the eye, right? To the point where he had to go have eye surgery. And there was just this black hole in his vision, right in the middle of his vision now. And he's had some surgeries to try to correct it, but nothing's helping. And he's just had it since he's 6 years old, right? And I did this procedure, and he came back the next day, right? And he said, dude, I don't know what you just did. I didn't even tell you about this. But the dot got 50% less in size, and it moved down to the corner of my vision, away out of the middle. And no one's made it move or reduce in size or change it in over 40 years. And I'm just like, what? Wow. So, I mean, I don't know, right? Like, I have no idea what's going to happen to people. I just unlocked the door, and the body is so powerful. It's designed to handle so much that I think it's beyond our comprehension. And but we can't. What we do see is that in a measurable fashion, it heals along a cyclical nature, and it can heal. It can heal almost everything. I mean, outside of the ones I told you about, can't bring things back to life. It's not gonna. Yeah. It's not gonna put your femur back in. If it's torn in two, you broke it in half. It's sticking out your leg. It's not gonna adjust your upper cervical and fix that.
Yo, so
right?
I told you I was a burnout, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got stuck when you said focus, the way you said focus. Have you ever seen Stu Peters' alter ego Focus?
No, I don't watch Stu Peters too much.
Neither do I. Neither do I. Though, can I show you something though?
Sure.
Watch this.
You're gonna make it, my special boy.
The ones you dial when you're faded at night. Drunk talk like, come and see me, man. I'll pay for your flight. You gotta hear this new shit I'm on. The video's right. Dog in the
Stu Peters a rapper? Are we listening to Stu Peters rap right now?
It's real bright for focus. We're playing.
What'd you say?
I did not know that we were going to be watching Stu Peters rap.
No, neither did I. I figured we only have a couple minutes left. Why not laugh about it? Something.
So funny.
He's not only a rapper. He was also a. I feel bad because I'm not really trying to pick on anybody or cause division. It's just really funny. But before he did his whole thing, Stu Peters Network or whatever, he was a rapper and he was a bounty hunter. And it's really funny.
I would never have got him as being a bounty hunter, but hey, whatever.
Bro, do you want to see that?
No, hold on. I'm good. You show me whatever you want, though.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just having fun. Well, we got like 15 minutes. I'm gonna start to wrap because I have kids coming in the house. I want to let you know though. I put this out to everybody that comes on the show, especially when I look up to them as much as I do you, and when they have something that's important for the movement. I want to extend an open door policy. If you ever have anything that you want to talk about, I like to look at this show personally as somewhere for the community to come voice whatever it is they need to voice. So I wanted to make sure that you know that the door is always open to you and anybody that you might suggest to come hang out with and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about.
Well, I mean, I really do appreciate that. I don't always have a whole lot of free time, but if you want to do more, I mean, I'm down. We just got to plan it out, you know?
I absolutely do. And I want to apologize last time, as I've said this when you weren't on, but having you and Pepe and AO all on at the same time, all three of you guys deserve your own show. So I felt like I gypped everybody out of hearing all three of you, to be honest. So I would love to put together more though, where maybe you and AO or we get some other and we cause some intellectual conversation. That would be awesome. I would be all about it if, you know, maybe I'll reach out to you once a month and see if you have time, something like that. That would be cool.
For sure, man. Absolutely. And yeah, I'm down to chat with whoever. So
all right.
I know all those guys, known Pepe and AO for some time. So great human beings.
Yeah, it's not just me. I think I speak for the whole community, especially the Rambo and Frens crew. We all look up to what you guys did before us. We are grateful for everything that you did. So when we get these opportunities to sit and hang out with people like you, it's an honor to say the least. So do you want to give your email one more time so I can make sure to put it in the chat and underneath the link on Twitter?
Yeah, dude, it's here. I can just type it in.
Are you going to put it in the chat?
I don't know if I can.
If you're on Rumble, you can. And also, after you're done doing that, if you want to let everybody know where it is they can find your newest accounts, where you post.
Here, I'm going to just text them to you and then you can put them.
All right. Yeah. And I'll do that. I'll add them to the shows afterwards so everybody can check them out.
Okay.
I know that on X, I can do that one off the top of my head. You are DrC _IET 17, correct?
Yeah.
And then on Truth Social, you are Inevitable ET.
Yeah, just straight up at Inevitable ET.
You're also on Telegram.
Yeah, and I think that one is at IET 17. I'm not sure.
And you mentioned a Substack?
Yeah, and I'm sending that to you. And
okay.
Substack and a Gmail are coming in.
All right.
So if you're not willing, you know, to send over your driver's license, I mean, listen, if you want to mark out like some of the private information on there, that's fine. But I need to see that it's a legitimate driver's license and a selfie that matches, because you don't want to give away your own private information. Like, I totally get it, but feeling is mutual. So we will, you know, you have to be willing to play ball, and I get it. You know, and those that are will keep your information safe. Obviously, this is a doctor's office as well. So you have HIPAA that controls your privacy, and we follow that to a T. So
that's good. I'm glad you told everybody that. Well, what I'm going to do now, Doc, is I'm going to drop you out. I'm going to say thank you one more time, and I'm going to do a couple house cleaning things before I go and take care of my kids. But like I said, bro, it's been an absolute honor. You've been somebody I've wanted to talk to for years, to be honest. So,
well, hey, it was a pleasure to come on. Let me know. We'll do it again with whoever, solo, doesn't matter. But anyway, yeah, dude.
All right, awesome. And I'll see you on the battlefield, and I will definitely stay in touch.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
Much love.
All right,
bye. Man, how freaking cool was that? So I just wanted to say this. I dropped Dr. C off just so I could say a few things, because if anybody came late and you want to go back and watch his show, bear with me, because we had a miscommunication on time. So I spent an hour in the beginning by myself, kind of winging it, and then to add on just a few technical difficulties. But I hope that everybody still got worth and weight out of that whole second half of the show, because man, I mean, that dude is brilliant. I got to be honest. I was ignoring some of the chat because I was trying to pay attention so much to what he was saying. So bear with that first hour, but please hit the thumbs up on Rumble, hit the thumbs up on YouTube, share it out on Twitter. I hope that everybody subscribes to the new channel so we can, you can get notifications or whatever when we go on. That was awesome. Jules, I saw that you showed up late. I hope that you go back and watch the whole thing. But like I said, the whole first half was me kind of filling time with I did one of my threads and showed a video, but it is what it is. I like to do these live because I like the interaction with the chat. I'm not going to stop doing it live. I also wanted to say that I did see that a few people have taken advantage of supporting the show through the Cash App. And I'm not going to say thank you to those people specifically because I don't know if they want the information that comes across shared, but I see you and I thank you. I want you to know that. It means the world to me, to be honest with you. So I'd like to think that eventually we could get this up to where it's paying for itself. That would be the goal. So thank you for your support. And I promised yesterday that I would give away, if you have stayed through that whole thing of time and technical difficulties, you know what's coming. So I promised yesterday that I would give away a bag of Kate's Keto from kofefe.coffee. Well, I'm going to do it now. So if everybody would throw, I don't know, write Rambo in the chat and I'll pick a number in my head. It's probably not going to be 17 this time because everybody keeps doing that. All right, I got my number. If you would throw, just write Rambo in the chat. If you don't write Rambo in the chat unless you are willing in a private message to give me an address to send it to. If you want me to send you free coffee, I have to have somewhere to send it. So I'm going to say thank you to Brian Cates, and I'm going to send his bag out to you. Obviously, I'm going to use my link so that it supports both of us. He did a great job yesterday. So I can't figure out if Benz is a troll or if he was actually trying to be funny, because Benz, a few of your comments actually made me laugh. And a few of them seemed like they were rude. So I don't know. I can't figure you out, but welcome to everybody. So I saw you. So let's see. I'm going to count them up. Keep going. You're welcome to write it multiple times. I'm going to get to a certain number and then I'm going to give it away. Oh, and Forever Tool 67 with a $10 Rumble rant. This episode was well worth more than $10. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. That means the world to me. Ben said he likes me, Lambo. I like you too, Ben. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep going. Keep going. For anybody staying, keep going. You just copy paste. You don't have to write it over and over. And I'm waiting. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Keep going. Keep going. There it is. You're drunk, Benz. Fitty. That's funny. All right. F Clen, you win. I'm giving it to F Clen today. FCLEN, you win. Kate's Keto bag of coffee, 12-ounce bag of coffee. I wish I could give it to everybody, but please go use it. Kofefe.coffee, buy some Rambo roast. And if you do, when you get it, please write a review or at least just tell me what you think so I can tell everybody on the show. So F Clen, I think I follow you already. But if I don't, get my attention somehow, whether it be in the hard comments on the show or on X, on Telegram, or on True Social, and I'll make sure, even though I think I already do follow you, if that's the case, just DM me where you want me to send it to, and I will do that just here as soon as I can. Thank you guys all very much for coming to hang out today. It has been an absolute blast. DrC IET is a legend. I can't wait to do it again. And I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Sean Anon coming on at 1 p.m. I plan on touching on all sorts of things with him. Dude is really easy to talk to. It's going to be a great conversation. So I will see you guys then. Until then, since technical difficulties got in the way, we're going to do it this way again. Much love, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.